Analyze, adapt, execute. Imagine a quirk that talks back, one that thinks faster than any supercomputer, and guides you like a second brain that never sleeps. Now imagine Deku having that. This is Great Sage. And from the moment he heard its voice, everything changed. Yo, what's good, ChronoCrew Legends? It's your boy Chronos, and today we're kicking off a brand new anime style. What if that's about to blow the roof off your expectations? What if Deku had the Great Sage? Part 1, the power to analyze reality itself, predict moves, break down quirks, and it's now in the hands of Izuku Midoriya. But this isn't just a stronger Deku, it's a smarter one, confident one, and this world is not ready for him. You already know the deal, smash that like button. Let's hit our goal of 100 likes to unlock the next episode. Hit subscribe, turn on those not-ifs, and join the timeline with the ChronoCrew Legends as we rewrite My Hero Academia like never before. Now let's dive into this new origin and watch how a whisper became a revolution. Episode 1, The Voice Within. The young boy pressed his face against the glass of the electronics store, emerald eyes fixed on the television displays inside. All of them showed the same footage, All Might's debut rescue, saving over 100 people with that unforgettable smile. He's so cool, Izuku Midoriya whispered, clutching his All Might action figure tighter. When I get my quirk, I'm going to be just like him. His mother smiled sadly behind him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Come on, Izuku, we should head home. That was before the doctor's visit, before the x-ray showing that extra joint in his pinky toe, before the words that shattered his world. I'm sorry, but your son will never develop a quirk. For years later, a green-haired boy sat at his desk, scribbling hero notes while his classmates showed off their quirks around him. At 9 years old, Izuku had grown accustomed to being invisible except when Kaken wanted a target. Hey, Deku! Katsuki Bakugo slammed his palm on Izuku's desk, small explosions crackling against the wood. What are you writing now, huh? More useless hero notes. Izuku flinched, instinctively covering his notebook. Kaken, I was just what? Planning to be a hero? Bakugo sneered, snatching the notebook away. You're quirkless. Useless. A nobody. The other kids laughed as Bakugo's palm smoked, singeing the notebook's edges before he tossed it out the window. Do yourself a favor, Bakugo said, leaning in close. If you want a quirk so badly, take a swan dive off the roof and hope you get one in your next life. Izuku's hands trembled as he retrieved his damaged notebook from the school's koi pond later that afternoon. The pages were soggy, the ink running in sad blue streaks down the paper. That night, Izuku sat by his bedroom window, tears streaming silently down his freckled cheeks as he clutched the dried but wrinkled notebook to his chest. The moon hung bright and full outside, bathing his All Might posters in silver light. Even without a quirk, he whispered, fists clenching around the fabric of his pajamas. I still want to be a hero. Something shifted in the air. A subtle ripple, like reality itself had paused to listen. Then, a mechanical voice echoed through his mind. Analysis complete. Mental compatibility confirmed. Activating auxiliary system. Great Sage. Izuku jolted upright, heart hammering against his ribs. Who's there? He whispered, scanning his empty bedroom. Greetings, Izuku Midoriya. I am Great Sage, an analytical support system now integrated with your consciousness. What? Izuku pressed his hands against his temples. Am I going crazy? Negative. Your mental faculties are functioning at optimal capacity. I am designed to enhance your cognitive abilities and provide real-time analysis of your surroundings. Izuku's breath caught. Are you a quirk? Unknown. Origin parameters are unavailable. Primary function: data processing, strategic analysis, and skill optimization. The boy's eyes widened, a trembling smile spreading across his face. You can help me become a hero? Affirmative. Your determination registers as exceptional. Initiating hero preparation protocol. For the first time in years, Izuku laughed. A sound of pure, unbridled joy. 5 years passed. 14-year-old Izuku Midoriya was no longer the same trembling child. He walked the hallways with quiet confidence, his posture straight, his movements precise. His notebooks had evolved from fan scribbles to detailed combat analysis, quirk evaluations, and hero strategy. Yo, Deku! Bakugo called out as Izuku passed through the classroom door. Still playing hero? When are you going to get it through your thick skull that you're nothing? Izuku didn't flinch. He turned calmly, meeting Bakugo's glare with steady eyes. Good morning to you too, Kaken, he replied evenly. Subject, Bakugo Katsuki. Emotional state, agitated. Recommended response, minimal engagement, maintain neutral posture. Bakugo's eye twitched at the lack of fear. Don't ignore me, you quirkless nobody. He lunged forward, palm crackling with the beginning of an explosion. Izuku simply stepped aside. A clean, practiced movement that left Bakugo overextended. Evasion successful. Opponent's balance compromised. Counterattack window, 1.4 seconds. Izuku didn't counterattack. He never did. Instead, he took his seat, opening his notebook with mechanical precision. What the hell? Bakugo snarled, confusion flashing across his face. Since when could you dodge like that? I've been training, Izuku replied without looking up. You should try aiming before you fire next time. The classroom went silent. No one spoke to Bakugo that way. You, all right, settle down, their teacher called, entering the classroom. I'll be handing back your career aspiration forms. Oh, and Midoriya, see me after class about your UA application. Bakugo's face contorted with rage. UA? You? Izuku met his gaze again, unflinching. Yes, UA. Warning. Bakugo's aggression levels rising. Prepare for confrontation after class. Sure enough, when the bell rang, Bakugo cornered him in the hallway, slamming Izuku against the wall. Listen here, Deku, he growled, small explosions popping in his palm next to Izuku's face. I'm the only one from this trash school going to UA, got that? Analysis. Right hook incoming in 0.3 seconds. Muscle tension indicates 70% force. As Bakugo's fist came flying, Izuku ducked, the punch hitting nothing but wall. He slipped past Bakugo's guard and stepped back, positioning himself in the center of the hallway. I'm not fighting you, Kaken, Izuku stated firmly. And I'm not giving up on UA. Bakugo charged again, this time with both hands blazing. Izuku weaved between the explosions, his movements fluid, calculated, reading Bakugo like an open book. Opponent's attack pattern is predictable. Uppercut followed by right blast. Evade left, then step back 2.4 feet for optimal distance. Izuku followed Sage's guidance perfectly, leaving Bakugo swinging at air. Students gathered to watch, murmuring in disbelief. How's quirkless Midoriya doing that? He's moving like a pro. Has he been hiding a quirk all along? After 5 minutes of Bakugo's increasingly desperate attacks hitting nothing but air, the explosive teen stood panting, fury etched across his features. Fight back! Damn it! He roared. Izuku shook his head. That's not what heroes do, Kaken. Heroes don't hurt people because they're angry. He turned and walked away, leaving a stunned audience and a seething Bakugo behind. That afternoon, Izuku took his usual shortcut home through the tunnel. His mind was busy reviewing hero statistics. Interesting pattern detected in the combat styles of underground heroes. Recommendation. Focus training on low-light environments and silent movement. Makes sense, Izuku muttered. I should ask Mom if I can. Danger detected. Incoming attack, 0.7 seconds. Izuku dove to the side as a mass of green sludge erupted from a manhole cover. The viscous creature formed what resembled a face, its eyes fixing on Izuku with predatory intent. Perfect. A medium-sized invisibility cloak. The sludge villain gurgled. Izuku's heartbeat remained steady as he assessed the situation. Sage options. Analysis complete. Entity composition. Fluid-based with semi-solid core. Options 1. Evade. 2. Stun. 3. Bait and bind. Option 3, Izuku decided, reaching into his backpack where he kept his homemade support items. The sludge villain lunged. Izuku rolled beneath the attack, pulling out a small canister. He had developed it based on his analysis of Midnight's quirk, a harmless but effective flashbang with chemical irritants. Hey, slime! Izuku called, backing toward the tunnel wall. You picked the wrong kid, the villain laughed. Brave little meat sack, aren't you? It'll only hurt for a minute. As the sludge surged forward, Izuku activated his trap. The canister exploded in a brilliant flash, releasing a specialized compound that caused the villain's outer layer to harden temporarily. Chemical reaction successful. Target immobilized for approximately 47 seconds. Izuku quickly pulled a capture seal from his bag, another invention based on hero support gear he'd studied. He applied it to the core of the villain, effectively trapping the creature in a semi-solid state. The entire encounter had lasted less than a minute. Izuku was catching his breath when a booming laugh echoed through the tunnel. Ha ha ha! Fear not, citizen, for I am. All Might skidded to a halt, his perpetual smile faltering slightly at the sight before him. The sludge villain was already contained, with a young boy standing calmly beside it. Whoa, young man, did you do this? All Might asked, his voice filled with surprise. Izuku's eyes widened, momentarily starstruck. All Might, the All Might, was standing before him. Emotional regulation advised. Focus on task completion. Regaining his composure, Izuku nodded. Yes, sir. Please take it before it reforms. He handed over the sealed bottle. The binding compound will only last about 10 minutes. All Might accepted the container, studying Izuku with newfound interest. That's quite impressive. What's your quirk, my boy? Izuku hesitated. It's analytical in nature. Nothing special. Nothing special? Young man, you just captured a villain that gave me quite the chase. You have the makings of a fine hero. Time-sensitive situation. Hero protocol suggests efficient departure to allow professional to complete duties. Thank you, sir. Izuku replied with a respectful bow. I should get going. Before All Might could ask more questions, Izuku walked away, leaving the symbol of peace scratching his head in bewilderment. Izuku had barely made it 3 blocks when he heard screaming. Following the sound, he came upon a horrifying scene. The sludge villain had somehow escaped and was now wrapped around a struggling figure in an alleyway. His blood ran cold when he recognized the spiky blonde hair. Kaken. All Might let it get away? Izuku thought, stunned. Analysis. Victim is Bakugo Katsuki. Oxygen deprivation estimated at 68%. Villain utilizing Bakugo's explosions to create perimeter defense. Professional heroes present but immobilized due to quirk incompatibility. Izuku scanned the scene. Death Arms, Backdraft, and Kamui Woods were all keeping their distance, unable to approach due to the villain's fluid nature and Bakugo's uncontrolled explosions. He moved without hesitation, accessing combat protocol. Optimal approach. Blind, then separate, then neutralize. From his backpack, Izuku pulled another stun grenade, his last one. He darted through the crowd, slipping past a distracted Death Arms. Hey kid, get back, someone shouted. Izuku ignored them. He activated the grenade, throwing it with perfect accuracy into the villain's eye structure. Bang! The flash momentarily disrupted the villain's control. In that split second, Izuku charged forward, using a capture tool to latch onto Bakugo's arm. With a calculated pull, he yanked his childhood bully free from the sludge's grip. Warning: villain reforming. Countermeasure required. Recommendation: kinetic dispersal. From an inner pocket, Izuku retrieved his most powerful invention, a compressed kinetic disruptor designed to create a force wave that would scatter fluid-based matter. Get down! He shouted, pushing Bakugo aside and activating the device. The force was more powerful than he'd calculated. The kinetic blast tore through the villain, scattering its mass across the alley in harmless globs. The shockwave shattered nearby windows and echoed across blocks. When the dust settled, the sludge villain was effectively neutralized. Nothing but inert puddles remained. Silence fell over the crowd. Bakugo stared at Izuku, speechless for perhaps the first time in his life. Then came the professional heroes. What were you thinking? Death Arms scolded, looming over Izuku. You used excessive force. Civilians could have been hurt. Izuku stood firm, meeting the hero's gaze without flinching. You were standing still. I had to move. The hero recoiled slightly at the calm certainty in the boy's voice. The villain was killing him, Izuku continued, gesturing to Bakugo. I calculated the minimum force necessary to neutralize the threat without causing permanent damage. As the heroes continued their lecture, Izuku noticed something strange. All Might was nowhere to be seen. Instead, a gaunt, skeletal man with sunken eyes was watching him from the edge of the crowd, an unreadable expression on his face. Subject unknown. Exhibiting unusual interest. Recommend caution. Later that evening, Izuku sat at his desk, reviewing the day's events and updating his hero notebook. His mother had nearly fainted when she saw the news footage of her son charging into danger, but had eventually calmed down after he explained his safety precautions. A knock at their apartment door interrupted his thoughts. Izuku, his mother called. There's someone here to see you. When Izuku entered the living room, he froze. The same skeletal man from earlier stood there, now wearing a loose-fitting suit. Young Midoriya, the man said, his voice surprisingly deep for his frail appearance. My name is Toshinori Yagi. I'd like to speak with you about what happened today. Analyzing speech patterns and physical characteristics. Match found. 97% probability this individual is connected to All Might. Once they were seated on the apartment balcony for privacy, the man fixed Izuku with an intense gaze. I'll be direct. I am All Might. To demonstrate, He briefly transformed into his muscular form before deflating back with a spray of blood that made Izuku jump. An injury from a fight 5 years ago, he explained, lifting his shirt to reveal a horrific wound on his side. My time as a hero is limited now. I can only maintain my form for about 3 hours a day. Izuku listened with growing shock as All Might revealed the truth about his condition, about the nature of his quirk, one for all, and about his search for a successor. Young Midoriya, today I saw something remarkable. Not just bravery, but calculation, intelligence, the instinct of a true hero. All Might leaned forward. My quirk can be passed down, and I've chosen you as my successor. Analyzing offer. Compatibility, 97%. Physical reinforcement optimal. Accepting one for all is recommended. Izuku's mind raced. All Might was offering him power, real power. Not just great sage's analysis, but the strength to act on it. Why me? Izuku asked quietly. There are stronger candidates. All Might smiled. Because today, when everyone else stood still, you moved. That's what being a hero is about. Izuku's eyes filled with tears. After years of being told he couldn't, here was the world's greatest hero saying he should. I accept, he said firmly. Not because I lack power, but because I want to save even more people. All Might's smile widened. Then let's begin. You have 10 months until the UA entrance exam. We've got work to do. As All Might outlined his training plan, Izuku felt great sage analyzing, calculating, optimizing. For the first time, his two worlds, his analytical mind and his heroic heart, were perfectly aligned. This is it, he thought, clenching his fists with determination. This is where my story truly begins. Episode 2, Forging Steel. The waves crashed against the shore of Dagoba Municipal Beach Park, the morning sun casting long shadows across mountains of discarded refrigerators, broken televisions, and rusted car parts. This once beautiful shoreline had become a dumping ground, forgotten by all except one skinny blonde man and a green-haired boy. Pull! All Might shouted in his depowered form, clipboard in hand as Izuku strained against a refrigerator twice his size. Sweat poured down Izuku's face, his muscles screaming in protest. He'd been at this for 3 weeks now, hauling trash, running drills, following All Might's American dream plan to rebuild his body from the ground up. Current muscle fatigue, 87%. Lactic acid accumulation approaching threshold. Recommend adjustment to leverage point by 15 degrees. Izuku shifted his grip slightly following Great Sage's guidance. Immediately, the load felt more manageable. Good. That's the way. All Might called, making a note on his clipboard. You're learning to distribute force efficiently. Izuku pushed the refrigerator another 10 feet before dropping to his knees, gasping for breath. 7 minutes of continuous exertion, All Might noted, checking his stopwatch. That's 2 minutes longer than last week. Izuku wiped his brow. Sage is helping me optimize my movements. All Might's expression turned curious. This sage of yours, you still haven't fully explained it. Caution advised. Full disclosure not recommended at this time. It's complicated, Izuku replied, getting to his feet. I can analyze things quickly, movements, patterns, weaknesses. It helps me make better decisions. All Might handed him a water bottle. A mental enhancement quirk that manifested late? That's rare, but not unheard of. Izuku took a long drink. He hadn't told All Might that Great Sage wasn't a quirk, mostly because he himself didn't know what it was. It had simply appeared that night 5 years ago, becoming as much a part of him as his own thoughts. Whatever it is, All Might continued, it's impressive. Your analytical abilities remind me of my old teacher. The skeletal man gazed out at the ocean, a nostalgic smile on his gaunt face. One for all will amplify those abilities, you know. Not just your physical strength, but everything that makes you you. Izuku's eyes widened. Even Sage, most likely, which means we need to prepare your body thoroughly. One for all is like a torch that's been passed down through generations, growing stronger with each bearer. If your body isn't ready, it could tear you apart. Calculating optimal training regimen. Adjusting protein intake by 22%. Sleep efficiency must increase by 17%. I understand, Izuku said, determination hardening in his eyes. I won't let you down. The months passed in a blur of aching muscles, protein shakes, and precise movements. Izuku's body transformed gradually. Lean muscle replacing his formerly scrawny frame, reflexes sharpening, endurance building. 6 months into training, All Might watched in amazement as Izuku methodically cleared an entire section of beach in a single afternoon. Young Midoriya, he called, Come take a break. Izuku set down an old engine block and jogged over, his breathing controlled despite the exertion. Your progress is remarkable, All Might said, handing him a sports drink. At this rate, you'll clear the entire beach before the exam. That's the plan, Izuku replied, taking a measured sip. Great Sage helped me develop a phased approach to maximize efficiency. All Might shook his head in wonder. I've trained others before, but never seen someone optimize their own training to this degree. Physical capacity now at 68% of required threshold for one-for-all integration. Current projection. Full readiness achievable in 97 days. All Might, Izuku said after a moment. I've been thinking about how to use one-for-all when I receive it. Oh, most new quirk users struggle with control, especially with powerful quirks. But what if I could regulate the output percentage? Instead of using 100% immediately, what if I started with, say, 5%? All Might blinked. That's actually brilliant. Most bearers take years to develop that kind of fine control. Great Sage can help me calculate the exact amount of power needed for each situation, Izuku explained, his eyes lighting up with excitement. It should minimize damage to my body while I adjust. All Might laughed, a sound that transformed his skeletal face. Young Midoriya, you continue to surprise me. This is why I chose you. On the morning of the UA entrance exam, Izuku stood at the now pristine Dagoba beach. The sun rose over clear waters, not a single piece of trash in sight. He had completed All Might's challenge with 2 weeks to spare. The symbol of peace stood beside him in his muscular form, beaming with pride. Look at this view, All Might said, gesturing to the clean shoreline. And look at you. Izuku had indeed transformed. His body was toned and strong, his posture confident, his eyes sharp and focused. He no longer resembled the timid boy who had once flinched at every harsh word. You've done more than prepare your body, young Midoriya. You've proven your worth through hard work and determination. All Might plucked a strand of his golden hair. Now it's time. My quirk, one for all, is transferred through DNA. You need to ingest this. Izuku stared at the hair. I have to eat your hair? I know it's not ideal, but yes. Analysis, DNA transfer method confirmed. Consumption required for quirk transference. No alternatives detected. With only a moment's hesitation, Izuku took the hair and swallowed it. How long until it takes effect? He asked. The transfer is immediate, but it'll take your body about 3 hours to fully process it. All Might explained. You should feel it right around the time the practical exam begins. Detecting unusual energy signature integrating with cellular structure. Monitoring physiological changes. Remember, All Might continued, start small. Try not to go beyond what your body can handle. Izuku nodded, determination set in his features. I'm ready. UA High School loomed before him, its massive gates open in welcome to the hundreds of hopeful applicants streaming inside. Izuku took a deep breath, straightening his uniform. One for all integration, 94% complete. Energy signature stabilizing. Recommend initial output limit of 8% to prevent structural damage. 8%, Izuku murmured to himself. Got it. As he approached the entrance, he noticed a familiar explosion of blonde hair in the crowd. Bakugo walked ahead of him, flanked by admirers from their middle school. That's Bakugo Katsuki. I heard he scored top marks in the mock exams. That he gets into UA no problem. Bakugo's eyes briefly met Izuku's. There was no sneer this time, just a cold, calculating look that almost resembled respect. Izuku continued forward only to feel his foot catch on an uneven paving stone. He pitched forward. Warning. Fall imminent. Reaction required in 0.4 seconds. But before he could hit the ground, he felt himself stop midair. It was as if gravity itself had paused. Sorry about that, a cheerful voice said beside him. I used my quirk on you. It would have been bad luck to fall right before the exam, right? Izuku turned to see a girl with rosy cheeks and a bob of brown hair smiling at him. She pressed her fingertips together, and he felt gravity return as his feet touched the ground. I'm Achiko Uraraka, she introduced herself. My quirk is zero gravity. I can make things weightless by touching them with all 5 fingers. Analysis, quirk, zero gravity. Applications, mobility, rescue operations, combat support. Limitations likely include weight threshold and possible nausea side effect based on vestibular system stress markers. Thank you, Izuku replied with a genuine smile. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Are you nervous? She asked as they walked together toward the main hall. I've been studying like crazy, but I'm still worried about the practical test. A little, Izuku admitted. but I've prepared as much as I can. Inside the orientation hall, Present Mick's booming voice explained the practical exam rules. Robots worth different point values would be scattered throughout a mock city. Destroy them to earn points. Simple enough. Izuku glanced at his assigned testing ground, Battle Center B. Uraraka was assigned to Battle Center H, while Bakugo would be in Battle Center A. Strategic separation of applicants, likely intentional to prevent cooperation between acquaintances. A tall boy with glasses stood up to question Present Mike about a discrepancy in the handout, a fourth robot type not assigned any points. That would be the zero-pointer, Present Mike explained. Think of it as an obstacle to avoid. It's not worth fighting. Izuku made mental notes, already forming strategies for each robot type. The mock city was enormous, towering buildings, wide streets, and alleyways creating a realistic urban environment. Izuku stood at the entrance gates with dozens of other nervous applicants, many showing off their quirks or adjusting support items. One for all integration complete. Energy pathways established. Combat readiness optimal. Izuku flexed his hand, feeling the new power humming beneath his skin like electricity waiting to be unleashed. Start. Present Mick's voice suddenly boomed from speakers overhead. While the other applicants stood frozen in confusion, Izuku bolted forward without hesitation. Activating tracking mode. Scanning for targets. Sage track movement patterns. Mark weak points. Izuku whispered as he ran. Tracking 17 targets within 200-meter radius. Optimal attack route calculated. First target. 2-pointer at intersection ahead. Structural weakness at neck joint. Izuku rounded the corner to find a green robot scanning the area. He channeled one for all through his body, feeling the energy spread like warm liquid through his muscles. 8% should be enough, he thought. With enhanced speed, he darted behind the robot and delivered a precision strike to its exposed neck joint. The machine crumpled instantly. 2 more robots appeared from an alleyway. Izuku didn't hesitate. He leaped into the air, using his newfound strength to propel himself higher than humanly possible, then came down with a devastating axe kick that split one robot in half. Target neutralized. 3 points accumulated. Next target approaching from right flank. For the next several minutes, Izuku moved through the battlefield like a calculated whirlwind. He didn't waste movement or energy, each strike precisely measured to disable robots without overexerting himself. Unlike many applicants who showed off flashy quirks, Izuku's approach was surgical, finding weak points, using the environment to his advantage, and occasionally helping fellow examinees who were cornered or overwhelmed. He pulled a purple-haired boy away from a falling wall, directed a laser quirk user toward a cluster of robots, and even used debris to create a path for a girl whose quirk seemed to involve creating objects from her body. Current point total, 57. Time remaining, 4 minutes 12 seconds. Suddenly, the ground shook. Buildings trembled as something massive emerged from behind a skyscraper. A robot the size of a small mountain, its red eyes scanning the battlefield. The zero-pointer. Examinees scattered in panic, running away from the mechanical behemoth as it began crushing cars and smashing through buildings. Izuku was about to join the retreat when he heard a cry of pain. Turning, he spotted a familiar face. Uraraka, trapped beneath a slab of concrete, directly in the zero-pointer's path. Analysis. Uraraka Achiko pinned by debris. Estimated weight, 1,210 kilograms. Injury assessment. Minor contusions, possible ankle sprain. Zero-pointer approaching at 8 meters per second. Without hesitation, Izuku changed direction, sprinting toward the trapped girl, while other applicants fled the opposite way. Hang on, he called, reaching her side and assessing the debris. I'm going to lift this. When I do, crawl out quickly. Uraraka nodded, her face pale with pain. Sage, maximum safe output for upper body? Calculating structural limits. Safe maximum. 12% for momentary exertion. Izuku channeled one for all into his arms and back, feeling the power surge through him like electricity. With a grunt of effort, he lifted the concrete slab, creating just enough space for Uraraka to drag herself free. Thanks, she gasped, clutching her ankle. The zero-pointer loomed closer, its massive treads crushing everything in its path. They needed to move, but Uraraka couldn't run. Izuku made a split-second decision. Sage, maximum output. Warning, full power will cause significant physical damage. Recommend no more than 15% for sustained use. I need more. Calculate kinetic focus to right arm only. Minimize structural damage elsewhere. Calculating. Kinetic focus protocol engaged. Warning: this will cause severe arm trauma. Izuku helped Uraraka to a safer position, then turned to face the zero-pointer. The massive robot was less than 30 feet away, its shadow engulfing them. "What are you doing?" Uraraka cried. "We need to run." "I can't leave you," Izuku replied calmly. "And I won't let that thing hurt anyone else." He crouched, channeling One for All throughout his body, concentrating the bulk of its power into his right arm. His veins glowed with energy, skin crackling with green lightning. Then he jumped. The force of his leap shattered the concrete beneath his feet, sending him rocketing upward at incredible speed. Wind rushed past his face as he soared level with the zero-pointer's head, its red eyes fixing on this new threat. In that suspended moment, Izuku cocked back his fist. One for All's power concentrated to a devastating point. Smash! His fist connected with the robot's face with catastrophic force. Metal crumpled like paper, circuits exploded, and the entire upper half of the zero-pointer disintegrated from the impact. The shockwave blew out windows for blocks. As the massive robot toppled backward, Izuku began to fall, and immediately realized his problem. His right arm hung uselessly at his side, purple and broken. His legs, too, had sustained damage from the jump. Damage assessment: right arm fractured in 14 places. Both legs sustaining hairline fractures. Initiating pain management protocols. Sage options for landing? He gasped through the pain. Limited options available. Attempt to rotate body to minimize impact. Brace with left arm. But before he could implement any strategy, he felt the familiar sensation of weightlessness. Looking down, he saw Uraraka touching debris with her quirk, creating floating platforms that slowed his descent. With her help, he managed a relatively gentle landing, though the pain in his arm and legs was nearly unbearable. "That was amazing!" Uraraka exclaimed, her eyes wide with awe despite her own pain. "You destroyed that thing with one punch." Izuku managed a small smile through gritted teeth. "I overdid it a bit." "Time's up," Present Mix's voice announced over the speakers. As the other examinees gathered, staring at the destroyed zero-pointer in disbelief, Izuku heard whispers. "Did you see that? One punch. Who is that guy?" Recovery Girl arrived shortly after, using her quirk to heal the injured. When she reached Izuku, she clicked her tongue disapprovingly. "My goodness, young man. You've really done a number on yourself." Her lips extended, planting a kiss on his forehead. Immediately, Izuku felt his bones begin to knit together, the pain subsiding, though extreme fatigue took its place as his body's energy was redirected to healing. "Thank you," he murmured, struggling to stay conscious. The last thing he saw before exhaustion claimed him was Uraraka's concerned face and the tall, bespectacled boy from the orientation staring at him with a mixture of respect and confusion. 2 weeks later, Izuku sat at his desk, staring at the letter from UA. His mother hovered anxiously in the doorway. "Aren't you going to open it, Izuku?" He nodded, carefully breaking the seal. A small disc fell out, projecting a hologram into the air. All Might's larger-than-life face appeared, his trademark smile beaming at them. "I am here as a projection." Midoriya gasped. "All Might? Why is he in your acceptance letter?" "I've come to Ye to teach," the projection explained. "But that's not why I'm here today. Young Midoriya, your performance in the entrance exam was nothing short of extraordinary." All Might gestured dramatically. "You scored 57 villain points, an impressive feat on its own. But that's not all. The practical exam wasn't just about defeating villains. The projection shifted to show footage of Izuku helping other examinees throughout the test, creating openings for them, pulling people from danger, and finally, his confrontation with the zero-pointer to save Uraraka. A hero course that rejects those who do the right thing is no hero course at all. That's why we have rescue points, awarded by a panel of judges for heroic acts beyond villain takedowns. All Might's smile somehow grew even wider. Izuku Midoriya, 57 villain points, 100 rescue points. Total, 157 points. The highest score by far. Young Midoriya, welcome to your hero academia. The projection faded, leaving Izuku staring at empty air, tears welling in his eyes. "I did it," he whispered. "I really did it." His mother wrapped him in a tight hug, sobbing with pride. That night, as Izuku lay in bed, he stared at his hand. The same hand that had destroyed the zero-pointer. Objective achieved. UA High School admission secured. Recommendation: begin preparation for academic curriculum and advanced quirk control training. "We've got a long way to go," Izuku murmured. But for the first time in his life, the path ahead was clear. With Great Sage's analysis and One for All's power, he would become the hero he'd always dreamed of being. This is just the beginning, he thought as sleep claimed him. The real challenge starts now.
Episode 3, The Calculated Hero.
Izuku Midoriya sat calmly near the center of Class 1A. His emerald eyes were focused, analytical. His left hand scribbled notes on everyone he'd observed yesterday during the Quirk Assessment Test. Their abilities, their habits, their nervous tics.
Analysis, Bakugo Katsuki. Quirk, explosion. Behavior, impulsive, pride-driven. Weakness, overcommits to frontal assault.
Great Sage's voice echoed in his mind. Ever calm, ever precise.
Midoriya, was it? Tenya Ida turned from the front. Your entrance exam display was unorthodox, but I must commend your effort in helping others.
Izuku looked up, offering a respectful nod. Efficiency doesn't mean ignoring people in danger. Ida blinked at the confidence behind the words. This wasn't the meek kid he'd expected based on their brief interaction before the exam. Before more could be said, the door slammed open. A man in a yellow sleeping bag dragged himself in, eyes half-lidded with exhaustion. He unzipped the bag just enough to reveal his face, unshaven, with long black hair and bloodshot eyes.
I'm Aizawa, your homeroom teacher, he muttered. Put these on.
He tossed them their PE uniforms.
No introductions. We're doing a Quirk Apprehension Test.
A test already? Several students cried out.
But orientation. Anyone who complains can go home. Heroes don't get orientation.
The class went silent. Izuku stood up calmly, already analyzing. A physical performance assessment. Observation priority. Measuring quirk control under structured limits. Teacher identified. Shota Aizawa. Pro Hero Eraserhead. Quirk, erasure. Can temporarily nullify quirks through direct eye contact. Strategy. Maintain awareness of line of sight. Out on the field, the first test was the 50-meter dash. Ida zoomed past in a blur, his engine quirk propelling him to an impressive 3.04 seconds. Bakugo followed with an explosion-fueled sprint, landing 4.13 seconds. Then came Izuku's turn. Sage. Distribute 8% of 1 for all to leg muscles. Time precision, 3.12 seconds. Distribution engaged. Musculoskeletal reinforcement active. Ready. He bolted forward, silent, clean, efficient. His body blurred across the line, leaving only a faint gust behind.
Everyone turned. Midoriya? Since when could he?
He was fast.
Aizawa's eyes narrowed, watching Izuku with heightened interest. Next, grip strength.
Izuku calmly placed his hand on the machine. Activate skeletal reinforcement. Focus strength evenly across palm.
Crack.
The machine beeped. 970 kilograms. Silence.
He's not flashy. Kaminari whispered to Kirishima. But he's terrifying.
The tests went on. Izuku placed in the top 3 every time, not from raw power but perfect precision. Great Sage guided him like a symphony conductor, adjusting output, form, and balance.
Then came the softball throw.
Aizawa tossed the ball to Izuku. Show me what you've got. Izuku took a deep breath. Sage. Calculate optimal spin velocity. Transfer 12% 1 for all to arm. Focus on structural reinforcement to avoid ligament damage.
Calculations complete. Power distribution optimized. Execute when ready.
He threw.
The ball vanished from view, becoming a streak of light. 1,030 meters.
Everyone gawked. Bakugo's eye twitched. You damn nerd.
He stormed up to Izuku, small explosions popping in his palms. I'll show you how it's done. But even with explosions, his throw only reached 850 meters.
You've been hiding something, haven't you? Bakugo snarled, getting in Izuku's face. Izuku didn't flinch. He turned his head slightly. I've just been improving.
Bakugo lunged. Aizawa's scarf shot out, capturing him midair. That's enough, Aizawa said coldly, his hair floating as his quirk activated. Save it for training. When the tests were complete, Aizawa displayed the final rankings on a holographic screen. Momo Yaoyorozu,
Izuku Midoriya, Shoto Todoroki, Katsuki Bakugo, Tenya Ida. The person in last place will be expelled, Aizawa announced.
The class tensed, especially Minoru Mineta, who stood trembling at the bottom of the list.
But the expulsion? Uraraka began, concern written across her face. Aizawa smirked. It was a logical ruse. Real heroes don't crack under pressure. The class sighed in relief except Izuku. He had seen through it from the start.
Mental manipulation through fear. Common instructor tactic, Sage had said at the beginning. You weren't going to expel anyone, Izuku stated matter-of-factly. Not after investing in the selection process. Aizawa's eyebrows raised slightly. Oh? And how did you deduce that?
Your record shows you've expelled students before, but only when they demonstrated dangerous decision-making or lack of potential. Everyone here passed UA's rigorous entrance exams. Statistically improbable that any would perform poorly enough to warrant immediate expulsion.
The class stared at Izuku in stunned silence.
Aizawa's lips twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. Interesting analysis, Midoriya. We'll see if your deductive skills match your physical abilities in the days to come. Later that day, in the changing room, Kaminari and Kirishima approached Izuku.
Dude, that was nuts. You're, like, part robot or something. Kaminari exclaimed. Kirishima nodded enthusiastically. The way you calculated everything, so manly. I thought you were just the guy who punched the zero-pointer, but you're seriously impressive. Izuku chuckled lightly. Just good instincts.
Caution advised. Excessive attention may lead to scrutiny of quirk mechanics. What's your quirk exactly? Zero asked, joining the conversation. Super strength plus super brains? Something like that, Izuku replied vaguely. It helps me analyze situations quickly. He didn't need to flaunt Great Sage. He simply acted. The next day brought their first hero basic training class, and with it, All Might himself in his muscle form, resplendent in his Silver Age costume.
I am here, coming through the door like a normal person.
The class erupted in excitement. It's really All Might. He's actually teaching us. That costume is so retro. All Might struck a pose. Welcome to the most important class at UA High. Think of it as Heroing 101. Today's lesson, battle training. He gestured dramatically to the wall, where panels slid open to reveal numbered cases. These are your costumes, based on your quirk registrations and the requests you sent in before school started.
The students rushed to grab their respective cases.
Izuku opened his to find the costume he designed with Great Sage's help. A streamlined green jumpsuit with reinforced padding at strategic points, utility pockets containing his homemade support tools, and a face mask with built-in analysis displays. Costume specifications confirmed. Materials will provide 47% increased durability compared to standard hero attire. Recommendation: test mobility limitations immediately.
In the locker room, Izuku methodically donned each piece, testing joint flexibility and weight distribution.
Whoa, Midoriya! Kirishima exclaimed, admiring his own hardening friendly costume. Your suit looks seriously professional. Thanks, Izuku replied. I designed it for maximum mobility and protection. When the class assembled at Ground Beta, a mock urban environment, they were a colorful array of hero aspirants. Some costumes were flamboyant, Aoyama's sparkling cape, others practical, Uraraka's space-inspired suit, and some downright intimidating, Todoroki's ice and fire ensemble.
All Might beamed at them. They say the clothes make the hero, young ladies and gentlemen. And you all look plus ultra.
His eyes lingered briefly on Izuku's costume, a flash of pride crossing his features.
Now, let's get started. Today's training, indoor battle training. Villain team versus hero team. The scenario: villains have hidden a nuclear weapon in their hideout. Heroes must either capture the villains or secure the weapon. Villains win by protecting the weapon or capturing the heroes.
All Might drew teams from lots. Izuku found himself paired with Uraraka, facing off against Bakugo and Ida as the villain team. Deku and I are a team? Uraraka said excitedly. That's awesome.
Izuku nodded, already formulating strategies. Bakugo will come for me immediately. His pride won't let him focus on the objective.
You know him well? We grew up together, Izuku explained simply. His quirk is powerful, but his tactics are predictable. As the villain team entered the building to prepare, Izuku activated his costume's analysis mode, a feature he designed based on Great Sage's capabilities. Sage, building schematics.
5 floors, concrete and steel construction. Multiple entry points. Air ventilation system accessible through maintenance panels. Calculating optimal infiltration route. Uraraka watched in amazement as Izuku muttered to himself, "I'm scanning the building."
You're really analyzing everything, huh? Izuku nodded. Bakugo will be hunting for me. Ida will stay with the weapon. Our best approach is to split their attention. He outlined a simple but effective plan. Uraraka would use her zero gravity to access the upper floors through external windows while Izuku engaged Bakugo, keeping him distracted. Battle start. All Might's voice boomed through their earpieces.
They entered through a ground floor window. The hallway was dark, pipes running along the ceiling.
Detecting approaching heat signature. Movement pattern matches Bakugo Katsuki. ETA, 17 seconds.
He's coming, Izuku whispered to Uraraka. Remember the plan. Once I engage him, make your way up.
Uraraka nodded, determination in her eyes. Right on cue, Bakugo rounded the corner, palms smoking with anticipation.
Deku, he roared. Stop hiding behind your calculations. Fight me for real.
Izuku stepped forward, placing himself between Bakugo and Uraraka. Go, he whispered to her. As Uraraka slipped away, Izuku faced his childhood tormentor. I'm not hiding, Kaken. I'm right here.
Bakugo charged, leading with a massive right hook, his signature opening move. Predictable attack pattern. Evasion window 0.8 seconds.
Izuku sidestepped with practiced ease, using Bakugo's momentum against him.
Still running away? Bakugo snarled, pivoting for another attack. No, Izuku replied calmly. I'm analyzing. This time, instead of dodging, Izuku channeled 7% of One for All and countered with a swift strike to Bakugo's solar plexus, not enough to injure, just enough to stun. Bakugo doubled over, gasping. When did you get so strong? I've always been strong, Kaken. You just never noticed. Rage flashed in Bakugo's crimson eyes. He launched a barrage of explosions, each more powerful than the last. The hallway filled with smoke and debris.
Warning. Structural integrity compromised. Recommend relocating to more stable area. Izuku retreated strategically, leading Bakugo away from Uraraka's path and into a larger room where he'd have more maneuverability. Meanwhile, through his earpiece, he could hear Uraraka engaging with Ida on the top floor. I'm at the weapon, she whispered. But Ida's moving really fast, I can't. Her transmission cut off as the sound of an explosion shook the building. Calculating teammate status. Probability of successful mission completion decreasing. Recommend direct intervention. Izuku needed to end this quickly. As Bakugo charged again, Izuku made a bold decision. Sage, calculate capture trajectory.
Calculating. Optimal capture point identified. Requires 15% power output to execute successfully.
As Bakugo lunged with another explosion, Izuku channeled One for All and executed a perfect counter, dodging the blast while simultaneously wrapping the capture tape around Bakugo's wrist.
In one fluid motion, Izuku pulled and twisted, using Bakugo's momentum to flip him onto his back. Before Bakugo could recover, Izuku had secured both wrists with the capture tape.
Villain captured, he announced calmly.
Bakugo stared up at him, shock and fury warring on his face. How? How did you get so strong?
Izuku met his gaze evenly. By never giving up. Leaving a fuming Bakugo behind, Izuku raced up the stairs toward the top floor where Uraraka was facing Ida alone. 5th floor accessed. Combat in progress. Teammate status. Engaged but outmatched by opponent's speed. Izuku burst into the room to find Ida zipping around Uraraka, his engine quirk allowing him to intercept her every attempt to reach the weapon. Ah, Midoriya, Ida called, playing his villain role with theatrical flair. You've arrived too late. Your explosive companion has failed. And now you face the might of...
Izuku didn't wait for the monologue to finish. He channeled One for All into his legs and leaped across the room in a single bound, landing directly between Ida and the weapon.
Uraraka now, he called. Understanding immediately, Uraraka activated her quirk on herself, becoming weightless. Izuku grabbed her arm and, with precise calculation, spun once and launched her directly at the weapon. Ida's engines revved as he tried to intercept, but Izuku was ready. He slid into Ida's path, forcing him to adjust course just enough for Uraraka to sail past and wrap her arms around the papier-mâché missile. Retrieved, she called triumphantly. Hero team wins. All Might's voice announced over the speakers. Back in the monitoring room, the class erupted in excited chatter. Did you see how Midoriya calculated every move?
And the way he handled Bakugo, so calm. That final play was genius. All Might conducted a brief review, naming Izuku as the MVP of the match for his strategic thinking and teamwork.
Young Midoriya showed exceptional situational awareness, All Might explained. He recognized his opponent's psychological weaknesses and exploited them while simultaneously creating opportunities for his teammate. That is the mark of a true hero. Bakugo stood silently in the corner, fists clenched, staring at Izuku with an unreadable expression.
That evening, as Izuku walked home, he sensed a presence behind him.
Warning, you are being followed. Distance, approximately 15 meters. Without breaking stride, Izuku spoke quietly. I know you're there, Kaken. Bakugo emerged from the shadows, his usual scowl replaced by something more complex. Confusion, frustration, and a hint of respect.
How long? He demanded.
How long what?
How long have you had this power? This quirk? Izuku considered his response carefully. I've always had the analytical ability. The physical enhancement is more recent. Bakugo's fists clenched. You've been laughing at me all these years, haven't you? Pretending to be weak.
No, Kaken. I was never pretending. I was just learning, growing, becoming stronger in ways you couldn't see. Bakugo's eyes narrowed. Today wasn't a real fight. Next time I'll go all out, and I'll win. Instead of cowering as he once might have, Izuku met his gaze steadily. I look forward to it. As Bakugo stormed off, Izuku continued his walk home, a small smile playing on his lips.
Relationship status with Bakugo Katsuki evolving from antagonistic to competitive. Positive development detected.
That night, Izuku sat at his desk, updating his hero notebooks with fresh insights from the day's battle training. His phone buzzed with a message from All Might. Excellent work today, young Midoriya. Your control of One for All is progressing faster than I anticipated. Keep up the good work. Izuku smiled, responding with a simple "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." As he prepared for bed, Izuku caught his reflection in the mirror. The nervous, uncertain boy was gone. In his place stood someone confident, calculated, and determined.
With great sage and One for All, he whispered to himself, I can become the hero I've always wanted to be. Objective, become the greatest hero. Status, in progress. Probability of success, increasing.
He clenched his fist, feeling One for All's power humming beneath his skin. I will become the symbol of peace.
Episode 4, USJ Calculated Crisis. The bus rumbled along the highway carrying Class 1A toward an unknown destination. Excitement filled the air as students chatted about their recent battle training results. Izuku sat quietly by the window, his mind processing yesterday's hero training. All Might had praised his quick thinking, but Izuku knew he could have been more efficient.
Analysis of yesterday's performance. Room for improvement in power distribution. Recommended adjustment to One for All output sequencing. Hey, Midoriya, Kirishima called from across the aisle, interrupting his thoughts. I've been meaning to ask. What's your quirk called? It's super manly how you analyze everything.
All eyes turned to Izuku, curious. Even Todoroki, who rarely showed interest in his classmates, glanced over.
Caution advised. Detailed explanation may reveal One for All connection. It's called analytical enhancement, Izuku replied smoothly. It lets me process information quickly and apply it to physical actions.
That's so cool, Ashido exclaimed. Like a super brain and super strength combo. But it doesn't explain the green lightning, Bakugo muttered from the back.
Before anyone could press further, Aizawa stood up at the front of the bus. We're here. Everyone out.
The unforeseen simulation joint, USJ, towered before them, a massive dome designed to simulate various disaster scenarios. As they entered, they were greeted by a figure in a puffy white spacesuit.
Welcome, students. I'm the Space Hero 13. Several students gasped in excitement. 13 is a rescue specialist, Uraraka whispered, eyes shining with admiration.
That's right, 13 confirmed. And today you'll be training in rescue operations across various environments. They gestured to the sprawling facility below, a central plaza surrounded by distinct zones representing different disasters, a shipwreck, a landslide, a fire, a storm, and more.
Rescue work is different from combat, 13 continued. Your quirks aren't meant to harm, but to help. Today, you'll learn.
Aizawa suddenly tensed, cutting 13 off mid-sentence. Something's wrong. In the central plaza below, the air rippled. A dark vortex of swirling purple mist appeared, expanding rapidly. From within, figures began to emerge, dozens, then scores of them. People with menacing appearances, weapons, and activated quirks.
Gather together and don't move, Aizawa commanded, pulling his goggles into place. 13. Protect the students. Threat assessment. Multiple hostile entities emerging. Coordinated villain attack probable. Current count. 47 visible hostiles and increasing.
Those are villains? Mineta squeaked. Real ones, Izuku confirmed, his mind already racing through scenarios. This is a coordinated attack. From the misty portal, two figures stood out, a man covered in hands, scratching his neck compulsively, and a massive, muscular creature with an exposed brain and a beaked face.
Sage, analyze primary threats. Analysis in progress. Hand-covered individual. Likely leadership figure based on positioning and deference patterns. Bird-headed entity. Biological readings inconsistent with human parameters. Power level. Extreme caution advised. Aizawa, now Eraserhead, leaped into action, his capture scarves whipping through the air as he engaged the first wave of villains. 13. Evacuate the students, he ordered. Kaminari, try contacting the school.
Kaminari pressed his communications device. No signal. They're jamming us somehow. As they turned to retreat, the misty villain materialized directly in their path. Greetings. It spoke in a deep, resonant voice. We are the League of Villains. Forgive our audacity, but today, we've come to UA High School to end the life of All Might, the symbol of peace. 13 stepped forward protectively. Students, stay back. I'm afraid I can't let you leave. The mist continued, expanding outward. Scatter them. Before anyone could react, the purple mist enveloped most of the class. Izuku felt the ground vanish beneath his feet as reality warped around him. Warning, spatial displacement detected. Calculating landing trajectory. He fell through darkness, emerging abruptly above water. The flood zone. With quick thinking, Izuku channeled 10% of one for all into his legs, adjusting his body position to hit the water at an optimal angle. Splash! He surfaced quickly, scanning his surroundings. Azuitsuyu was nearby, swimming effortlessly with her frog-like adaptations. In the distance, Mineta bobbed in the water, panicking. Midoriya, rib bit. Tsuyu called, swimming toward him. Are you okay? I'm fine, he replied, treading water. We need to regroup and assess the situation. They made their way to a nearby yacht, pulling a trembling Mineta aboard. We're going to die, Mineta wailed. There are real villains out there. Calm down, Izuku said firmly. Panic leads to mistakes. Analyzing zone parameters, water-based villains approaching from multiple vectors. Count, 16 hostiles. Estimated time until intercept, 43 seconds. Izuku scanned the water, noting the dark shapes circling their vessel. We're surrounded. Water Quirk villains. What do we do? Mineta asked, tears streaming down his face. Izuku's mind raced, formulating and discarding plans in seconds. Tsuyu, what's the full extent of your quirk? I can jump high, stick to walls, extend my tongue about 20 meters, secrete toxic mucus, and spit my stomach out to clean it, she replied matter-of-factly. Also, I'm stronger in water. Ribbit. And Mineta, I can pull these balls from my head, Mineta demonstrated, plucking a purple sphere from his scalp. They stick to anything but me, and depending on my health, they can stay sticky for a whole day. Integration potential identified. Combined quirk application possible with 78% success probability. I have a plan, Izuku announced, but we need to work together perfectly. He outlined his strategy quickly. Mineta would drop his sticky balls into the water while Izuku created a massive current with one for all to sweep the villains into the adhesive trap. Tsuyu would use her tongue to transport them all to safety afterward. On my signal, Izuku instructed, moving to the ship's edge. Sage, calculate optimal impact point for maximum water displacement. Calculations complete. Recommend 20% power concentrated to right leg, angled at 42 degrees into water. Now, Mineta began frantically throwing his sticky balls into the water while Izuku leaped high, channeling one for all into his leg. Smash! His foot hit the water with tremendous force, creating a massive whirlpool effect. The villains, caught in the sudden current, were swept together, directly into Mineta's sticky trap. Within seconds, they were all immobilized, clumped together in a floating purple mass. It worked, Mineta exclaimed in disbelief. Of course it worked, Tsuyu said, impressed. Midoriya's plans always work. Ribbit. Izuku was already focused on their next move. We need to get back to the central plaza. That's where their leaders are. Using Tsuyu's tongue as transport, they made their way toward the central area, staying low and out of sight. As they reached the edge of the shipwreck zone, a horrifying scene unfolded before them. Aizawa was engaged in combat with the hand-covered villain, and losing. His face was pressed to the ground, his elbow disintegrating under the villain's touch. That must be his quirk, Izuku whispered. Disintegration on contact. Worse still, the massive brain-exposed creature stood nearby, watching impassively. What is that thing? Mineta whimpered. Subject analysis, Nomu. Biological readings indicate significant genetic modification. Multiple quirk signatures detected. Threat level, extreme. Some kind of bioengineered weapon, Izuku replied grimly. They brought it specifically for All Might. As they watched, the villains signaled to the creature, the Nomu. It moved with shocking speed, grabbing Aizawa and slamming him repeatedly into the ground until he lay motionless, blood pooling beneath him. We have to help him, Mineta hissed. No, Izuku held him back. We'd be killed instantly. Our priority is getting help. Strategic assessment.
Direct confrontation inadvisable. Recommend covert movement toward exit while gathering intelligence. They began making their way around the perimeter of the central plaza, staying hidden. Izuku observed everything, recording mental notes about the villains' positions, quirks, and the Nomu's capabilities. Suddenly, Izuku froze. The hand-covered villain had noticed something or someone at the entrance.
Following his gaze, Izuku's heart sank. Uraraka and 13 were at the main doors attempting to evacuate the remaining students. The mist villain was engaged with 13, but the hero appeared to be losing.
They're going to be trapped, Tsuyu whispered. Izuku made a split-second decision. We need a distraction. Something to draw attention away from the entrance. Are you crazy? Mineta gasped. We'll be killed. Not if we're smart about it, Izuku replied, eyes calculating. I don't need to beat them. Just distract them long enough for the others to escape. Before his companions could stop him, Izuku was moving, circling behind debris to approach from the villain's blind spot.
Warning, extreme risk detected. Survival probability, 29% without intervention.
I know, Izuku whispered, but I can't just watch. He positioned himself behind a large piece of rubble, preparing his distraction. A modified flash grenade he'd kept in his utility pouch for emergencies.
Just as he was about to activate it, the entrance doors burst open with explosive force.
Have no fear. Why? Because I am here.
All Might stood silhouetted in the doorway, but there was something different about him. His trademark smile was gone, replaced by a furious scowl.
All Might. Izuku breathed in relief. The symbol of peace took in the scene. The injured Aizawa, the trapped students, the waiting villains, and moved with blinding speed. In seconds, he had rescued Aizawa and returned to face the villains.
You've made a grave mistake, villains, All Might declared, his voice cold with anger. The hand-covered villain tilted his head. Nomu, kill him.
What followed was beyond anything Izuku had witnessed before. The Nomu and All Might clashed with such force that shockwaves rippled across the facility. Buildings cracked, water churned, and the very air seemed to distort from the impacts. Analysis. All Might operating at approximately 92% capacity. Nomu demonstrating shock absorption, super strength, and regeneration quirks. Advantage, uncertain.
Despite All Might's overwhelming power, the Noma matched him blow for blow. When All Might tried to suplex the creature, it regenerated instantly, trapping the hero in a devastating hold.
The mist villain created a portal beneath them, positioning it so the Nomu could drag All Might halfway through. A trap designed to cut him in half when it closed. Izuku's blood turned to ice. All Might was in genuine danger. Intervention window, 2.7 seconds before irreversible damage.
Without conscious thought, Izuku was moving, channeling One for All to its limits. Sage, maximum safe output. Emergency override engaged. 25% distribution authorized.
He launched himself across the plaza, green lightning crackling around his body as he aimed directly for the warp gate. Get away from him!
The hand-covered villain noticed his approach, reaching out with his disintegration quirk, but Izuku had calculated this. He adjusted midair, twisting just beyond the villain's reach while maintaining his trajectory toward the warp gate.
His fist connected with the metallic collar around the misty villain's form, the only solid part of his body. The impact disrupted the warp gate just enough for All Might to break free from the Nomu's grip. Young Midoriya, All Might called in surprise.
The hand-covered villain scratched his neck furiously. A student? Nomu, kill the brat. The creature pivoted with inhuman speed, barreling toward Izuku with its arm cocked back for a devastating blow.
Impact imminent. Survival probability, 12%. Izuku braced himself, channeling One for All into a defensive stance, but knowing it wouldn't be enough.
Suddenly, ice erupted across the ground, freezing the Nomu's legs mid-stride. Todoroki stepped forward, his right side frosted. Forgetting someone? He asked coldly. A massive explosion hit the Nomu from another angle, Bakugo, his palm smoking. Out of my way, monster.
More students appeared. Kirishima with hardened fists, Yaoyorozu creating a cannon, Tokoyami's dark shadow swooping in from above. The hand-covered villain stepped back, visibly agitated. This is cheating. Too many players. Kurogiri, we need to.
Before he could finish, the main doors burst open again. This time, a cadre of UA teachers stood ready, led by Principal Nizu.
The game's over, villains, Present Mike declared, his voice quirk at the ready. The hand-covered villain scratched his neck frantically. Kurogiri, get us out of here. This tutorial level was too hard anyway. The mist villain, Kurogiri, expanded, enveloping the villain leader and the partially frozen Nomu. In seconds, they vanished, leaving only the lower-level villains behind to be quickly subdued by the teachers.
In the aftermath, Izuku sat on a piece of rubble, his mind processing everything that had happened. His intervention had been risky, perhaps even foolish, but necessary.
Analysis complete. Attack profile suggests League of Villains specifically targeted All Might with comprehensive preparation. Future encounters highly probable. Recovery Girl tended to the injured, with Aizawa and 13 receiving emergency care. All Might had disappeared, likely to recover in private, Izuku guessed.
Midoriya. Izuku looked up to see Todoroki standing before him, heterochromatic eyes studying him intently. You moved without hesitation, Todoroki stated. When All Might was in danger,
Izuku nodded. Anyone would have.
No, Todoroki replied firmly. They wouldn't. Your power, it's similar to All Might's.
Izuku maintained a neutral expression. I just did what I thought was right. Todoroki seemed about to say more, but instead turned and walked away, leaving Izuku with an uneasy feeling. Subject Todoroki Shoto. Displaying heightened interest in your quirk similarities with All Might. Recommendation: prepare alternate explanations. Later, as they boarded buses back to UA, Uraraka sat beside Izuku. That was really brave what you did, she said softly. Scary, but brave.
Izuku offered a small smile. I just calculated the risks and made a decision. That's what makes you special, Deku, she replied. You calculate everything, but when it matters, you still lead with your heart. Her words stayed with him as they returned to UA, where a somber Nizu addressed the class about security measures and the investigation into the League of Villains. That evening, Izuku received a text from All Might, my office.
10 minutes. When he arrived, he found his mentor in his true form, looking tired but resolute.
Young Midoriya, All Might began. Today you put yourself in grave danger.
I had to, Izuku replied simply. You were.
I know, All Might interrupted, raising a hand. And I'm grateful. But that creature, the Nomu, was designed specifically to kill me. The analysis you shared with the police confirms it had multiple quirks engineered to counter One for All.
Izuku nodded grimly. Multiple quirks shouldn't be possible naturally. Someone created it. Yes. All Might's expression darkened. And I have a suspicion about who. There's something I haven't told you about One for All's origins. For the next hour, All Might revealed the history of his quirk. How it was born as a counter to its dark opposite, All for One. A quirk that could steal and bestow other quirks. How a centuries-old villain had nearly killed him 5 years ago.
How One for All had been passed down through generations with the express purpose of eventually defeating this ultimate evil.
The League of Villains, All Might concluded, may be connected to All for One, which means the target isn't just me. It's eventually going to be you too. Izuku absorbed this information with steady calm, great sage cataloging every detail. Historical data integrated. Threat assessment updated. All for One, primary antagonist with quirk manipulation abilities. Connection to League of Villains, highly probable. Personal threat level, maximum. What do we do? Izuku asked finally. All Might placed a hand on his shoulder. We prepare. Your training needs to accelerate. The sports festival is coming up. Use it to announce yourself to the world, but be careful not to reveal too much about One for All. Izuku nodded, determination hardening in his eyes. I understand. As he walked home that night, Izuku's mind whirled with everything he'd learned. The League of Villains, All for One, the dark history of One for All. It was more complex than he'd imagined when he accepted All Might's power. Objective parameters expanding. Primary goal remains. Become the symbol of peace. Additional goal added. Counter the All for One threat.
Looking up at the night sky, Izuku made a silent promise to himself and to All Might. He would master One for All completely. He would use Great Sage to its fullest potential. And when the time came to face this ancient evil, he would be ready.
I won't let you down, he whispered to the stars. Any of you. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders, not as a burden, but as purpose. With Great Sage's analysis and One for All's power, he would face whatever came next. The League of Villains had made their first move. Next time, Izuku would be prepared.
Episode 5, Sports Festival, The Calculated Declaration. The UA Sports Festival begins in 2 weeks.
Aizawa's announcement sent ripples of excitement through Class 1A. Despite their bandaged teacher looking like a mummy from his USJ injuries, his voice carried the gravity of what this meant. This is no ordinary school competition, he continued. It's your chance to be scouted by pro heroes across the country. For many of you, this will determine your hero career trajectory. Izuku sat quietly,
absorbing this information while his classmates buzzed with excitement around him. Sports Festival Analysis. High visibility event with 94% professional hero agency viewing rate. Optimal showcase opportunity for controlled quirk demonstration. A chance to show our stuff. Kirishima pumped his fist. So manly. I'll blind them with my sparkle, Aoyama declared. Bakugo slammed his desk. This is where I prove I'm the best. As class ended, Uraraka approached Izuku with unusual intensity in her eyes. Deku, let's do our best. Her fierce expression caught him off guard. Uraraka, you seem different. I need to stand out at the sports festival, she explained, determination hardening her usually cheerful features. I became a hero to help my parents financially. Their construction company is struggling and this is my chance to get noticed. Subject, Uraraka Achiko. Motivational shift detected. Financial incentive primary driver rather than altruism. That's admirable, Izuku replied sincerely. Supporting your family, she smiled, some of her usual brightness returning. Thanks, Deku. So let's both aim for the top. Okay? As they headed toward the cafeteria, Izuku found his path blocked by a crowd of students from other courses. So these are the famous Class 1A students? A tired-looking boy with purple hair remarked, loud enough for everyone to hear. The ones who survived a villain attack. Must make you feel pretty special. Subject identified, general education student. Voice pattern indicates deliberate provocation. Not particularly, Izuku replied calmly. We were lucky to survive. The purple-haired boy's eyes narrowed. I'm Hitoshi Shinso. Remember that name when I transfer into the hero course after the festival. By taking one of your spots. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. What's he talking about? Can they really replace us? They absolutely can, Shinso continued. Students who excel in the festival can be promoted to the hero course. The reverse is also true. Consider this an official declaration of war. Instead of being intimidated, Izuku extended his hand. I look forward to seeing your abilities, Shinso. The unexpected response clearly caught Shinso off guard. He stared at Izuku's hand for a moment before tentatively shaking it. You're not what I expected, Class 1A. Most things rarely are, Izuku replied with a small smile. As the crowd dispersed, Bakugo shoulder-checked Izuku on his way past. Don't get friendly with the competition, Deku. They're all just stepping stones. That's unnecessarily antagonistic, Kaken. Bakugo scowled. This festival isn't about making friends. It's about showing everyone who's on top. He jabbed a finger at Izuku's chest. And I'm going to crush you with my own hands. Subject, Bakugo Katsuki. Aggression levels consistent with established baseline. Challenge component, escalating. I'll see you in the finals then, Izuku replied calmly. Something like respect flickered in Bakugo's eyes before he stormed off. Later that day, Izuku received a message from All Might. Meet me at Dagoba Beach after school. The setting sun painted the clean shoreline in shades of gold and amber. All Might, in his true form, sat on a bench overlooking the ocean. Young Midoriya, he greeted as Izuku approached. Thank you for coming. Is everything all right, sir? All Might gestured for him to sit. The sports festival. It's more important than you might realize. After the USJ incident, people are questioning my absence. Rumors about my declining power are spreading. Public perception analysis. Symbol of peace status potentially compromised by recent events. Media speculation increasing. You want me to make a statement? Izuku deduced. Yes, All Might confirmed. This is your chance to tell the world I am here. To show them the next symbol of peace is coming. Izuku considered this responsibility carefully. How much should I reveal about One for All? That's what I wanted to discuss. You need to showcase your power without being too obvious about its connection to mine. The green lightning effect when you use it already provides some visual distinction. Great Sage can help me optimize my performance while maintaining that distinction, Izuku said, already formulating strategies. I'll need to control exactly how much power I display and when. All Might nodded. The festival has 3 traditional events, an obstacle race, a team competition, and finally one-on-one battles. Each presents different challenges and opportunities. They spent the next hour discussing potential approaches, with Izuku taking mental notes on everything from power conservation to strategic alliances. Remember, All Might concluded, this isn't just about winning. It's about showing the world what kind of hero you'll become. The 2 weeks before the festival passed in a blur of intense training. Izuku split his time between physical conditioning,
quirk control exercises, and strategic planning.
Each evening, he would sit cross-legged in his room, eyes closed, communicating with great Sage about optimal approaches to different scenarios.
Sage, run Simulation 17 again. If Todoroki creates an ice wall during the obstacle race, what's the most efficient response? Simulation 17 initiating. Analysis complete. Recommended approach. 12% one for all to legs, vertical ascent rather than breakthrough. Energy conservation. 47% improved over frontal assault. And if Bakugo attacks from above while I'm mid-jump, counter scenario calculated. Aerial evasion at 15-degree angle combined with minimal counterthrust would preserve momentum while avoiding direct confrontation. On the morning of the festival, Izuku stood before the mirror, adjusting his PE uniform. The nervous, quirkless boy who had once dreamed of being a hero was gone. In his place stood someone confident, calculated, and ready. Biometric readings optimal. Stress levels within acceptable parameters. One for all, energy signature stable at resting state.
Today, he told his reflection, I show them who I am.
UA's stadium was packed with spectators. Pro heroes, industry scouts, media, and civilians alike. The first-year students gathered in the preparation area, the air electric with anticipation. Midoriya. Izuku turned to find Todoroki regarding him with that intense heterochromatic gaze. Objectively speaking, I'm stronger than you, Todoroki stated matter-of-factly. But you have All Might's interest. That makes you someone I need to defeat. Subject. Todoroki Shoto. Displaying targeted competitive focus. Probability of personal motivation beyond mere victory. 89%. Is this a declaration of war, Todoroki? Izuku asked calmly. Call it what you want. I won't lose to you. Instead of being intimidated, Izuku smiled slightly. Everyone here is giving their all. I expect nothing less from you.
Before Todoroki could respond, Present Mic's voice echoed throughout the stadium.
Welcome, spectators, to the UA Sports Festival. Let's get ready to watch these first-year phenoms show their stuff.
The students filed into the stadium, greeted by thunderous applause. Midnight, serving as referee, called Bakugo to the stage as the first-year representative based on his entrance exam score.
I just wanted to say, Bakugo began with surprising calmness, that I'm going to win.
Boos erupted from the other classes while Class 1A collectively sighed. So predictable, Kaminari muttered.
Without further ado, Midnight announced, let's unveil the first event. A giant screen displayed the words, Obstacle Race.
All participants will follow a 4-kilometer course around the stadium facing various obstacles along the way. The first 42 students to finish will advance to the next round.
Course analysis initiating. Obstacle types likely include terrain challenges, robotic opponents, and confined spaces based on previous year's data. On your marks, Izuku positioned himself carefully near the middle of the pack. Get set.
He channeled 5% of one for all throughout his body, ready for an explosive start. Go! The mass of students surged toward the narrow exit tunnel, immediately creating a bottleneck. Bodies pressed against each other as everyone fought to squeeze through. Spatial analysis, vertical space unutilized. Recommendation, wall climbing bypass.
While others pushed forward, Izuku leaped upward, adhering to the tunnel wall with precisely applied force through his hands and feet. He crawled along the ceiling, bypassing the crush of bodies below.
By the time he emerged from the tunnel, only Todoroki had pulled ahead, freezing the ground behind him to slow others down.
Ice surface detected. Traction coefficient reduced by 86%. Adjusting movement pattern.
Izuku channeled 1 for all into his legs and jumped, sailing over the ice field and landing in a smooth roll. Bakugo blasted past overhead, using his explosions for aerial mobility. The first major obstacle came into view, a field of massive robots from the entrance exam, including several zero-pointers blocking the path.
Todoroki froze one in place and slipped beneath it. Bakugo blasted straight through another's weak point. Izuku assessed the situation instantly.
Sage, identify optimal path. Analysis complete. Recommend utilizing robot locomotion mechanics. Target joint identified at 47 degrees above horizon.
As a zero-pointer swung at him, Izuku leaped directly at its arm, landing precisely on the joint connecting it to the shoulder. With calculated timing, he rode the momentum of its swing, launching himself over the entire robot field in one fluid motion. Would you look at that move? Present Mic's commentary boomed. Midoriya from Class 1A just outsmarted the robots instead of fighting them. Landing gracefully on the other side, Izuku found himself in third place behind Todoroki and Bakugo as they approached the second obstacle, the fall. A series of stone pillars stood separated by chasms, connected only by thin ropes. Todoroki skated across on an ice bridge. Bakugo propelled himself through the air with explosions. Distance calculation complete. Direct crossing inefficient. Alternative route identified.
Instead of following their approach, Izuku took a different angle. He grabbed one of the tight ropes and, with precise application of one for all, used it like a slingshot, catapulting himself across multiple gaps in a single bound.
Another creative solution from Midoriya, Present Mike shouted. This kid's brain works differently. The final obstacle appeared, a minefield. Todoroki and Bakugo had slowed significantly, carefully picking their way through while engaged in their own battle for first place. Explosive device pattern analyzed. Detonation force. Non-lethal but significant. Strategic opportunity identified. Izuku made a bold decision. Instead of avoiding the mines, he began digging several up with his hands, gathering them in a pile at the edge of the field. What is he doing? Spectators murmured. When he had collected enough, Izuku positioned his makeshift bomb precisely, stepped onto it, and channeled 15% of one for all into his feet. The resulting explosion was massive, launching him like a human rocket over the entire minefield. He sailed past the stunned Todoroki and Bakugo, green lightning crackling around his body as he maintained perfect aerial control.
An incredible move. Midoriya takes the lead. Izuku landed running, sprinting toward the stadium entrance with Todoroki and Bakugo in furious pursuit. The finish line approached, pursuers closing. Current pace sufficient to maintain lead by approximately 1.4 seconds.
And Izuku crossed first, arms raised in victory as the crowd erupted.
Izuku Midoriya takes first place in the obstacle race.
He stood in the center of the stadium, breathing controlled despite the exertion, as Todoroki and Bakugo finished second and third respectively. The rest of the qualifiers streamed in over the next few minutes.
When all 42 finalists had assembled, midnight revealed the second event, the cavalry battle. Participants will form teams of 2 to 4 people, with each person worth points based on their ranking in the obstacle race. The first place contestant is worth 10 million points.
All eyes turned to Izuku. Social dynamic shift detected. Target acquisition status confirmed. You are now the primary objective for all competitors. The 10 million points will be on his head, Midnight declared, pointing dramatically at Izuku. Get his headband, and you'll be in first place no matter what. Izuku stood calmly as his classmates and students from other courses regarded him with predatory eyes. This was exactly what he had anticipated. As the preparation period began, he found himself conspicuously alone. Everyone wanted his points, but no one wanted to be on the team that everyone would target. Deku, Uraraka approached, determination written across her face. Let's team up, she said firmly. I know everyone will be after you, but that just means it'll be more challenging. Alliance offer analysis. Uraraka Achiko. Quirk synergy potential high. Motivational alignment. Compatible despite risk. Are you sure? Izuku asked. Being on my team means being the main target.
That's exactly why. The stronger the challenge, the better we'll look when we overcome it. Izuku smiled. Then I accept. We'll need at least one more person. May I join as well? A feminine voice asked.
They turned to find a pink-haired girl with strange goggles and a manic grin. I'm Mei Hatsum from the support course. Your performance was amazing, and I want my babies to be seen with the most prominent contestant. Your babies? Uraraka questioned.
My inventions. Hatsum clarified, gesturing to the array of support items strapped to her body. This is the perfect chance to show them off to the companies watching.
Subject: Hatsum Mei. Motivation: technology demonstration. Support gear quality assessment. Exceptional craftsmanship detected. Your support items could be useful, Izuku acknowledged. We'll need a strong defense. I can help with that. Tokoyami stepped forward, dark shadow hovering behind him. My quirk excels at defense and mid-range combat. With their team assembled, Izuku quickly developed a strategy leveraging each member's strengths. Hatsum provided jet boots for mobility, Uraraka would use her quirk to make them lighter, Tokoyami's dark shadow would provide 360-degree defense, and Izuku would serve as the rider and tactical coordinator.
As the cavalry battle began, they immediately became the center of attention. Multiple teams converged on them from all directions. Sage, track movement patterns. Identify primary threats.
Analyzing primary threats. Todoroki's team approaching from northwest with Ice Quirk.
Bakugo's team approaching from east with aerial capability, Shinso's team approaching from south with unknown quirk parameters. Tokoyami, defensive formation alpha. Izuku called. Hatsum, prepare for vertical evasion on my mark. Dark shadow expanded, creating a protective barrier around them as Todoroki's team sent a wave of ice toward their position. Now Hatsum, the jet boots activated, propelling them skyward just as the ice would have trapped their feet. Uraraka's zero gravity made the ascent effortless. They're above us, Bakugo shouted, launching himself from his team toward Izuku. Aerial interception incoming. Evasion window, 0.8 seconds. Tokoyami, intercept. Dark shadow shot forward, meeting Bakugo midair and deflecting his attack. The explosive teen was forced to retreat to his team. For the next 10 minutes, the battle continued in this fashion, Izuku's team evading, defending, and occasionally counterattacking with perfect coordination. Their movements were like a well-rehearsed dance, responding to threats before they fully materialized. They're like a fortress, Present Mike commented. Team Midoriya hasn't lost a single point despite being the main target. With 1 minute remaining, Todoroki made his move. His team, consisting of Ida, Yaoyorozu, and Kaminari, executed a pincer attack. Kaminari unleashed an electric discharge. Yaoyorozu created an insulated blanket to protect their team, and Ida activated what appeared to be a special move. Recipro burst. Ida shouted, his engines flaring with blue flame. Their team shot forward with impossible speed, catching even Izuku by surprise. Warning: approaching velocity exceeds predicted parameters. Standard evasion insufficient. In that critical moment, Izuku made a calculated decision. Rather than trying to evade, he channeled 20% of one for all throughout his body and executed a perfect countermotion, using the approaching team's momentum against them. As Todoroki reached for his headband, Izuku twisted with enhanced speed, simultaneously grabbing Todoroki's own headband while protecting his 10 million points. What? Todoroki gasped. Impressive move, Todoroki, Izuku acknowledged as their teams separated. But predictable, the buzzer sounded, ending the cavalry battle. Time's up, Midnight announced. Let's see our advancing teams. The scoreboard revealed the results. Team Midoriya, 10,295 points. Team Bakugo, 665 points. Team Shinso, 585 points. Team Todoroki, 565 points. These 16 students will advance to the final event, one-on-one tournament battles. As they prepared for the afternoon's tournament, Izuku found a quiet corner to rest and strategize. Great Sage was already analyzing potential matchups and optimal approaches for each possible opponent. Tournament bracket analysis complete. First round opponent, Hitoshi Shinso. Quirk information limited. Caution advised. A shadow fell across him. Looking up, Izuku found Todoroki standing there, his expression unreadable. I need to speak with you, Todoroki said quietly. In private. They found an empty corridor beneath the stadium. For a long moment, Todoroki was silent, staring out a window. My father is Endeavor, he finally began. The number 2 hero. He spent his entire career chasing All Might, never able to surpass him. So he devised another plan: create a child who could do what he couldn't. Subject revealing significant personal information. Trauma indicators present in vocal patterns and micro-expressions. He used his money and influence to arrange a quirk marriage with my mother, whose ice quirk complemented his fire. I am the result of that project, his masterpiece. Todoroki turned, his mismatched eyes burning with cold fury. I refuse to use his quirk. I will reject his ambition by winning this festival with only my mother's ice power. And you're telling me this because? Izuku asked, though he already knew. Because you're connected to All Might somehow. I can see it in how he looks at you, how your power resembles his. Defeating you using only half my power will be my declaration of rebellion. Izuku considered his response carefully. This wasn't just about the tournament anymore. This was about something deeper, more personal. Todoroki, he said finally. Your quirk is yours, not your father's. Limiting yourself doesn't hurt him. It only hurts you and those you want to protect. Todoroki's expression hardened. You don't understand. I understand more than you think, Izuku replied. And when we face each other in this tournament, I won't be holding back. I suggest you don't either. As Todoroki walked away, Izuku felt a peculiar sense of purpose. The sports festival had become more than a showcase, it was now a battlefield of ideals. Encounter assessment. Todoroki Shoto revealing psychological motivation behind quirk limitation. Potential catalyst role identified in subject's development. the tournament bracket was announced. Midoriya vs Shinso, Todoroki vs Zero, Ida vs Hatsum, Kaminari vs Shiozaki, Ashido vs Aoyama, Tokoyami vs Yaoyorozu, Bakugo vs Uraraka, Kirishima vs Tetsu. As Izuku prepared for his first match, he couldn't help but notice a path that would likely lead to confrontations with both Todoroki and Bakugo if he advanced. Exactly what All Might had wanted. A stage for him to declare himself to the world. Now, he murmured, stepping into the sunlight as his name was called. It begins! Episode 6, Battles of Will, the tournament. The roar of the crowd washed over Izuku as he stepped onto the concrete platform. Across from him stood Hitoshi Shinso, the purple-haired general studies student whose quirk remained a mystery. Opponent analysis. Hitoshi Shinso. Known data minimal. Physical capabilities. Average. Strategic approach. Extreme caution advised until quirk parameters identified. First match of the tournament. Present mic announced. From the Hero Course, Class 1, S Calculating Wonder, Izuku Midoriya. Versus the Dark Horse from General Studies, Hitoshi Shinso. Shinso's expression remained neutral, but his eyes held a calculating intensity that Izuku recognized all too well. So you're the famous Midoriya, Shinso called across the platform. The one who rescued his teacher at USJ. Must be nice being born special. Izuku said nothing, recognizing the provocation attempt. Warning. Opponent attempting verbal engagement. Potential quirk activation trigger detected. Recommend non-verbal response. As Midnight raised her whip to start the match, Shinso continued. I bet that quirkless friend of yours from middle school is really proud. What was his name again? The one who jumped. Izuku's eyes widened in shock. What did you? The words died in his throat as his body suddenly froze. His mind remained clear, but his muscles wouldn't respond to his commands. Alert. Motor function compromised. Brainwashing quirk detected. Neural override attempting to establish control. Turn around and walk out of bounds, Shinso ordered. To Izuku's horror, his body began to turn. Emergency protocol engaged. Attempting neural pathway isolation. Inside his mind, Great Sage worked frantically to contain the brainwashing effect, creating a separate channel for Izuku's consciousness to operate independently of the compromised motor functions. Sage, what's happening? Izuku thought desperately as his legs took a step toward the boundary. Quirk analysis complete. Brainwashing activated through verbal response. Control can be broken through significant physical shock. Calculating options. Izuku's body continued moving toward the boundary line, fighting against his will. The crowd watched in confusion as the tournament favorite appeared to be surrendering without a fight. I need to break free. Can I use one for all internally? Affirmative. Recommend 20% power surge directed to fingertips. Self-inflicted pain should create sufficient neural disruption. With tremendous mental effort, Izuku managed to channel one for all into his right hand. Green lightning crackled almost imperceptibly beneath his skin. Just as his foot was about to cross the boundary, he forced his power to spike, breaking his own fingers from within. The pain was explosive, shattering Shinso's control instantly. Izuku gasped, regaining command of his body and spinning back to face his opponent. What? Shinso's eyes widened in disbelief. How did you? Opponent disoriented by unexpected quirk failure. Tactical window, 2.3 seconds. Not wasting a moment, Izuku charged forward, channeling 8% of one for all throughout his body. Before Shinso could react, Izuku had him in a carefully calculated hold, leveraging his opponent's weight against him. Sorry, Shinso? Izuku said, careful not to phrase anything as a question. Your quirk is amazing, but I can't afford to lose here. With a controlled movement, he lifted and carried Shinso to the boundary line, then set him down outside it. Shinso is out of bounds, Midnight announced. Midoriya advances to the second round. The crowd's reaction was mixed confusion about the strange match giving way to applause for the victory. As they walked back toward the tunnel, Shinso stopped. Why didn't you just knock me out? You clearly had the power. Because unnecessary force isn't heroic, Izuku replied. Your quirk would be incredible for hero work, defusing hostage situations, talking down suicide attempts, ending fights without violence. Shinso's eyes widened slightly. Most people just call it villainous. People don't understand what they fear, Izuku said. But UA has a transfer exam after the festival. Don't give up. For the first time, a hint of a smile crossed Shinso's face. I don't intend to. As Izuku headed to Recovery Girl's office to have his fingers healed, he mentally reviewed the other matches taking place. Todoroki had frozen Zero instantly in a massive glacier, demonstrating overwhelming power but also the cold fury that seemed to drive him. Match analysis. Todoroki Shoto displaying significant power restraint despite overwhelming force. Emotional state affecting quirk application efficiency. After receiving treatment and watching the remaining first-round matches, Izuku found himself facing Tokoyami in the quarterfinals. This match promises to be a tactical showdown. Present Mike declared, Dark Shadow versus the Calculating Fighter. Opponent analysis. Fumikage Tokoyami. Quirk. Dark Shadow, semi-autonomous shadow entity. Strength inversely proportional to light exposure. Close combat vulnerability identified. The match began with Tokoyami immediately sending Dark Shadow forward in a sweeping attack. Izuku dodged with calculated precision, analyzing the shadow's movement patterns and response time. Your quirk is powerful, Tokoyami, Izuku called, but it has clear limitations. As does yours, Midoriya, Tokoyami replied calmly. Let's see whose analysis proves superior. For the next minute, they engaged in what looked like an elaborate dance. Dark Shadow attacking from multiple angles while Izuku evaded with minimal movement, conserving energy and studying each pattern. Analysis complete. Dark Shadow response delay, 0.42 seconds from command. Impact force decreasing by 4% per exchange due to stadium lighting. Sage, optimal approach, close quarters engagement recommended. Light exposure maximization to reduce Dark Shadow's effectiveness. Izuku suddenly changed tactics, charging directly at Tokoyami with 12% of 1 for all, enhancing his speed. Dark Shadow moved to intercept, but Izuku had calculated the timing perfectly. He slipped past the Shadow's grasp, closing the distance to Tokoyami himself. The bird-headed student's eyes widened as Izuku entered his personal space, rendering his quirk's range advantage moot. Forgive me, Tokoyami, Izuku said, before executing a perfectly controlled grapple. With Tokoyami's mobility restricted and Dark Shadow weakened by their proximity to the stadium lights, the outcome was decided in seconds. Izuku carefully maneuvered his classmate to the boundary and out. Tokoyami out of bounds. Midoriya advances to the semi-finals. In the other matches, Todoroki defeated Ida after a spectacular battle of speed versus ice, while Bakugo overwhelmed Kirishima's hardening with relentless explosions. The semi-final matchups were set. Midoriya versus Todoroki, Bakugo versus Ashido. The stadium buzzed with anticipation for what many considered the real final. Midoriya against Todoroki. Their confrontation had been brewing since the cavalry battle, and now it would play out for all to see. In the waiting room, Izuku sat alone, eyes closed as he communicated with Great Sage. Todoroki will start with a massive ice attack, like with Zero. I need to be ready. Confirmed. Initial ice wave probability, 97%. Recommended counter, 15% output to legs for vertical evasion, followed by rapid closing to neutralize range advantage. The door opened, interrupting his thoughts. All Might entered in his true form, closing the door behind him. Young Midoriya, he said quietly. This match, it's important. I know, Izuku replied. This is where I make my declaration. All Might nodded. Yes, but there's more. Young Todoroki is fighting with only half his power because of his father. As a hero and as the future symbol of peace. You want me to help him? Izuku finished, understanding immediately. Sometimes being a hero means saving people from themselves, All Might said simply. I leave the method to you. After All Might left, Izuku sat in contemplation. His goal had been clear: showcase his abilities and announce himself to the world. But now there was this additional dimension, helping Todoroki overcome his self-imposed limitation. New parameter integrated. Dual objectives identified. Victory demonstration and psychological catalyst for opponent. The call came for his match. As Izuku walked through the tunnel toward the sunlight, he made his decision. He would fight at his best, and in doing so, force Todoroki to confront his own limitations. For the first semi-final match, Present Mix's voice echoed throughout the stadium. We have two of Class 1, S rising stars, the Ice Emperor, Shoto Todoroki, versus the calculating strategist, Izuku Midoriya. They faced each other across the concrete platform, heterochromatic eyes meeting determined green ones. Remember what I said? Midoriya, Todoroki stated coldly. I'll win with just my right side. Izuku's expression remained calm. And I told you, I won't be holding back. Neither should you. Begin, Midnight declared. Instantly, Todoroki sent a massive wave of ice surging across the platform.
even larger than what he had used against Zero. Ice wave approaching at 27 meters per second. Mass approximately 4.8 tons. Direct impact unsurvivable without significant power usage. 8% won't be enough, Izuku muttered. Sage, authorized 20%. Full body distribution. Warning, 20% output risks minor tendon damage. Authorizing for 6-second burst.
As the ice wall bore down on him, Izuku channeled one for all throughout his body. Green lightning crackled visibly around him as he launched himself skyward, sailing over the incoming glacier. At the apex of his jump, he redirected his trajectory, diving straight toward Todoroki with his fist cocked back. Smash! His strike hit the ground where Todoroki had been standing a split second earlier, the impact shattering the concrete and sending chunks flying in all directions. Todoroki had barely managed to evade, sliding backward on a newly created ice path. "You're faster than before," Todoroki observed, already sending another ice attack. Izuku weaved through the ice spikes, closing the distance between them with calculated movements. "And you're holding back." Each time Todoroki created ice, Izuku countered with precise application of force, breaking through when necessary, evading when more efficient. The platform began to resemble a battlefield covered in ice fragments and cracked concrete. Subject's body temperature dropping rapidly due to excessive ice generation. Left side remains inactive despite decreasing effectiveness of right side. "Your quirk has a limit, Todoroki," Izuku called out as he shattered another ice wall. "The more you use your right side without your left, the slower you become. Your body's cooling down too much." "Shut up," Todoroki snapped, frost beginning to form on his skin. "I don't need his power." Izuku pressed his advantage, moving in closer as Todoroki's attacks became more sluggish. "It's not his power. It's yours." With a burst of speed, Izuku got inside Todoroki's guard, delivering a controlled strike to his midsection that sent him sliding backward across the ice. "Look at yourself," Izuku continued, standing tall despite his own fatigue. "You're shivering. Your movements are slowing. All because of your pride." Todoroki struggled to his feet, ice forming more slowly now. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Izuku replied, his voice carrying across the silent stadium. "You're so focused on rejecting your father that you're rejecting yourself. Everyone here is giving their all, Uraraka, Ida, Tokoyami, Bakugo, while you insult them by fighting at half strength." Something flickered in Todoroki's eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or doubt. "You want to be a hero?" Izuku challenged, channeling 15% of one for all as he prepared another attack. "Then stand up and fight me with everything you have." He charged forward, green lightning crackling around him as he aimed a devastating strike at Todoroki's position. In that moment, something broke within Todoroki. Memories flooded through him, his mother's gentle touch, her words, "It's okay to use your power, it's yours, not his." As Izuku's fist approached, flames erupted from Todoroki's left side for the first time in the tournament. A brilliant conflagration that melted the ice and sent steam billowing across the platform. "Incredible," President Mike shouted. "Todoroki is using his fire quirk." The temperature around them surged from freezing to scorching in an instant. Todoroki stood transformed, ice flowing from his right side, flames dancing from his left, a look of liberation on his usually stoic face. "Thank you, Midoriya," he said, his voice steady. "Now I can show you my true power." What followed was a battle that would be remembered for years. Ice and fire against calculated strength and strategy. Each attack was met with a precise counter, each strategy anticipated and adapted to. Warning: opponent's combat effectiveness increased by 142%. Current output insufficient for victory without significant risk. Sage options: 2 viable approaches. 1. Increase output to 30% with high injury risk, or 2. Utilize environmental advantage from ice-fire temperature differential. Izuku chose the second option. As Todoroki sent simultaneous waves of ice and fire, Izuku didn't try to power through them. Instead, he targeted the exact point where they met, where rapid temperature changes created structural instability. With precise timing, he struck the convergence point with a focused 20% smash, creating an explosive pressure wave that temporarily blinded Todoroki and disrupted his attack. In that brief window, Izuku closed the distance, channeling one for all through his entire body for one final move. He grabbed Todoroki by his costume and, with a perfect execution of a judo throw enhanced by superhuman strength, sent him flying toward the boundary. Todoroki, still disoriented from the pressure wave, couldn't create ice fast enough to stop his momentum. He landed outside the line. Todoroki out of bounds. Midoriya advances to the finals.
The crowd erupted in thunderous applause, many spectators on their feet. They had witnessed not just a battle of quirks, but a battle of wills, and both competitors had emerged transformed.
As they met in the center of the platform, Todoroki extended his hand, both sides, ice and fire together.
"That wasn't just a match," he said quietly. "You were trying to save me."
Izuku shook his hand, feeling both the cold and heat. Sometimes heroes have to save people from themselves. Todoroki's lips curved in the barest hint of a smile. "I won't forget this, Midoriya."
As Izuku walked back to the waiting room, his body aching from the exertion, he checked in with great sage. Damage assessment? Minor stress fractures in right arm and left tibia. Muscle fatigue at 76%. Recovery period required before final match. Recommendation: seek medical treatment immediately. Recovery girl treated his injuries with her usual mix of healing and scolding. "You're learning to control that power better, but you're still too reckless, young man." While resting, Izuku watched Bakugo's semi-final match against Ishido. The explosive teen was relentless, overwhelming her acid quirk with sheer power and precision. His victory was decisive but not excessive. Bakugo was saving his energy for the final. For the final match, the stadium was packed beyond capacity. Heroes from across the country had gathered to witness the conclusion of what was already being called one of the most impressive sports festivals in UA history. "The moment you've all been waiting for," President Mike announced. The final match of the UA Sports Festival first-year tournament. Katsuki Bakugo versus Izuku Midoriya. As they took their positions, Bakugo's expression was intensely focused, none of his usual rage visible. "Deku," he said, his voice low enough that only Izuku could hear. "No holding back. I want to defeat you at your best." Izuku nodded. "I wouldn't have it any other way, Kaken."
Final opponent, Bakugo Katsuki. Previous encounter data integrated. Explosion quirk parameters updated based on tournament performance. Recommendation: sustained output at 18% with strategic bursts to 25% for key exchanges.
"Begin." Unlike his previous matches, Bakugo didn't immediately attack. Instead, he circled cautiously, palms sparking with contained explosions. "You've been planning for this, haven't you?" Bakugo called. "Analyzing me all tournament. Just as you've been watching me," Izuku replied, maintaining optimal distance. They circled each other like predators, each waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The crowd held its breath, sensing the history between these two contestants. Bakugo made the first move, a feint to the right followed by an explosion-propelled leap to Izuku's left. It was a new pattern, one Izuku hadn't seen before. Novel attack pattern detected. Predictive model adjusting.
Izuku narrowly evaded the blast, feeling its heat sear past his face. Bakugo had been studying him too, developing counters to his usual evasion tactics.
"Not so predictable now, am I?" Bakugo grinned fiercely.
The battle escalated quickly. Bakugo unleashed his AP shot, a concentrated explosion beam that Izuku barely dodged. In return, Izuku executed a Delaware Smash air pressure attack that forced Bakugo to defend rather than attack.
Each exchange became more intense than the last, both fighters pushing their limits. Bakugo's explosions grew larger, more controlled, while Izuku's movements became increasingly precise. One for all's green lightning crackling constantly around his form. "This is incredible," President Mike shouted. "These first years are fighting at a level that would make pros proud."
The concrete platform began to crumble beneath the force of their quirks. Bakugo's hands were smoking from overuse while Izuku's muscles strained under the continuous output of one for all. Warning: approaching sustainable limit. Muscle fatigue at 89%. Quirk control degrading by 3% per exchange.
After a particularly powerful explosion, Bakugo charged through his own smoke screen, catching Izuku momentarily off guard. He closed the distance, grabbing Izuku's arm in a move reminiscent of their childhood fights. "Gotcha," he snarled, his palm heating up for a point-blank explosion.
But Izuku had anticipated this. Instead of pulling away, he stepped closer, neutralizing Bakugo's leverage advantage. "Not quite," he replied.
With perfect timing, Izuku channeled 25% of one for all into his core and executed a lightning-fast grappling counter, using Bakugo's own momentum to flip him over his shoulder. Bakugo, however, was no amateur. Mid-flip, he detonated an explosion that separated them both, sending them skidding to opposite sides of the platform. Both fighters were breathing heavily now, reaching their limits.
"Why?" Bakugo demanded suddenly. "Why did you hide your power all those years? Why pretend to be weak?" The question hung in the air between them. In that moment, Izuku made a decision, not calculated by great sage, but from his heart.
"I never pretended, Kaken," he said quietly. "I was quirkless. Everything changed later." Bakugo's eyes widened. "What?"
The analytical part was always there, Izuku continued. But the strength that came after. I had to earn it.
Something shifted in Bakugo's expression, realization perhaps, or a new understanding.
"Then prove it," he said, his palms igniting with his largest explosion yet. "Show me what you've earned." Bakugo launched himself forward using his ultimate move, Howitzer Impact, a spiraling explosion of unprecedented power.
Incoming attack force exceeds previous maximum by 68%. Conventional defense insufficient. Sage authorized 30%. Full counter.
Warning, 30% output will cause significant muscular damage. Authorization granted for 3-second window.
As Bakugo's Howitzer Impact approached, Izuku channeled the highest percentage of 1 for all he had ever attempted in combat. Green lightning exploded around him, crackling so intensely that it illuminated the entire stadium. Detroit Smash.
Their quirks collided with catastrophic force. The shockwave shattered the remaining concrete, created a wind tunnel that forced spectators to shield their faces and sent debris flying in all directions.
For a moment, nothing was visible through the dust and smoke.
Then, as the air cleared, 2 figures could be seen, both still standing, barely feet apart, their uniforms tattered and bodies trembling with exertion.
Bakugo took 1 step forward, his expression a mix of defiance and respect.
"Not done yet," he gasped. Then his eyes rolled back and he collapsed.
Izuku stood swaying, his body screaming in pain but still conscious, still standing. Bakugo is unable to continue. Midoriya wins the tournament.
The crowd's roar was deafening. Izuku raised his arm in victory, green lightning still flickering faintly around his exhausted form.
In that moment, looking out at the sea of faces and the cameras broadcasting his victory across the nation, Izuku Midoriya made his declaration to the world. "I am here." The symbol of peace had found his successor. Episode 7. The Hero's Name.
The morning after the sports festival, Izuku's phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. His victory had catapulted him into the spotlight, with his final declaration, "I am here," echoing All Might's famous phrase, becoming the talk of hero forums nationwide.
Media analysis. Your name appears in 284 news articles, 1,726 social media posts, and 47 hero agency statements. Sentiment analysis. 92% positive, 7% neutral, 1% concerned about similarity to All Might.
Izuku silenced his phone, wincing as his muscles protested the movement. Despite Recovery Girl's treatment, his body still ached from pushing 1 for all to 30% during the final match.
"Izuku, breakfast is ready," his mother called from the kitchen.
He found her surrounded by newspaper clippings, tears of pride streaming down her face. "My baby's famous," she exclaimed, showing him the front page of the Hero tabloid with his lightning-wreathed silhouette emblazoned across it.
The headline read, "A new symbol rises? Caution advised. Media speculation about connection to All Might increasing. Recommend developing diversionary narrative." "It's just a sports festival, Mom," Izuku said, trying to downplay it. "The real work starts now."
At school, the atmosphere had changed. Students from other departments stopped to stare or whisper as he passed. Even within Class 1A, there was a subtle shift. Respect had deepened, curiosity had heightened.
"Midoriya," Kirishima called as he entered the classroom, giving him a solid slap on the back that made him wince. "Man, you're like a celebrity now. That final match was the manliest thing I've ever seen."
Ashido bounced excitedly. "You've got to tell us how you came up with those moves. The way you countered Bakugo's explosion was insane." Speaking of Bakugo, the explosive teen was surprisingly subdued, sitting at his desk with a contemplative scowl rather than his usual rage.
Subject: Bakugo Katsuki. Behavior pattern shift detected. Introspective indicators present in posture and eye movement. Potential psychological recalibration in progress. Aizawa entered, silencing the excited chatter. "Settle down. The sports festival is over. Now comes something more important. Your hero names."
The class perked up immediately.
Professional hero agencies have submitted nominations for students they're interested in taking as interns. Aizawa continued, displaying a list on the board. "These nominations are based on your performance at the sports festival." The list appeared, topped by Izuku Midoriya, 4,128.
Shoto Todoroki, 3,556.
Katsuki Bakugo, 3,112. Tenya Ida, 301. "Over 4,000? Kaminari exclaimed. Midoriya broke the record.
Izuku stared at the number in shock. Even with great sage's predictions, the scale of interest was overwhelming. Before you choose where to intern, Aizawa continued, you need to decide your hero names. These may be temporary, but take them seriously, they could follow you your entire career.
Midnight entered the classroom with a flourish. I'll be helping you evaluate these names from a marketing perspective. As students began scribbling ideas on mini whiteboards, Izuku found himself uncertain. He had always admired All Might, but taking a name too similar would only fuel the speculation about their connection. Sage suggestions?
Analyzing personal attributes, quirk manifestation, and public perception. Optimal hero name should balance uniqueness with marketability while avoiding direct All Might association.
Students began presenting their choices. Red Riot, declared Kirishima.
Kriati, Yayarosa said elegantly.
Froppy, Azui announced to general approval. When Bakugo presented Lord Explosion Murder, only to be immediately rejected by Midnight, Izuku noticed something unexpected. The explosive teen glanced in his direction, as if gauging his reaction.
Finally, it was Izuku's turn. He approached the front, whiteboard in hand, having made his decision. I've chosen Deku.
Murmurs of surprise rippled through the classroom. Deku? Midnight questioned. Isn't that what Bakugo calls you? Doesn't it mean useless? Izuku nodded. It did. But someone once told me it could mean something else. You can do it. I'm reclaiming it. Transforming what was meant to hurt me into something that inspires others. The room fell silent. Even Bakugo seemed momentarily stunned. Plus, Izuku added with a small smile, it's easy to remember. Midnight clapped her hands. I love it. Redemption narratives are incredibly marketable. As Izuku returned to his seat, he caught Uraraka's eye. She gave him a thumbs up and a bright smile, recognizing her role in redefining Deku for him.
Hero name registered, Deku. Public reception projection, initial confusion followed by strong brand recognition. Narrative potential excellent.
After class, as students excitedly discussed their internship options, Izuku found himself approached by an unexpected visitor. All Might in his true form, gesturing for him to follow.
In a private office, All Might handed him an envelope. This arrived for you specifically. It's from my former sidekick, Sir Night Eye.
Izuku's eyes widened. Sir Night Eye was legendary in hero circles, not just for being All Might's sidekick, but for his analytical mind and his mysterious foresight quirk. He watched your performance at the sports festival and was impressed, All Might explained. He's requesting you specifically for an internship. Sir Night Eye, former sidekick to All Might, quirk, foresight, can see a person's future in detail for a limited time. Agency specializes in investigative hero work.
This is an incredible opportunity, Izuku breathed.
All Might's expression turned serious. Night Eye and I had a falling out years ago. He may ask you about me, about One for All. Be careful what you reveal.
What happened between you?
All Might sighed, his sunken eyes distant with memory. He saw something in my future that I refused to accept. Something I'm still fighting against. Inference. Sir Night Eye likely foreseen All Might's death or serious decline using his quirk. I'll be careful, Izuku promised. But why would he request me if he's at odds with you? Because despite our disagreement, Night Eye values ability above all else, All Might explained. And you, young Midoriya, have caught his analytical eye.
The next day, Izuku reviewed the top hero agencies that had nominated him. Besides Sir Night Eye, offers had come from Endeavor, likely to watch him after his match with Todoroki, Best Jeanist, who typically chose students based on refinement potential, and dozens of other top heroes.
Agency compatibility analysis complete. Sir Night Eye's operation most aligned with your analytical approach and future development needs. His decision made, Izuku was about to submit his internship form when Ida approached. His usually animated demeanor subdued.
Midoriya, he said quietly. I wanted to inform you that I'll be interning at an agency in Hosu City. Hosu, Izuku frowned, but you received nominations from much higher-ranked agencies.
Ida's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. It's a personal choice, subject displaying signs of emotional distress beneath controlled exterior. Recent news from Hosu City. Hero killer stain attack on pro-hero Ingenium, Ida's brother. This is about your brother, isn't it? Izuku asked gently.
Ida's composure cracked slightly. You heard, it was in the hero news. Is he alive but severely injured? Ida replied, his voice tight. The doctors say he may never walk again. His hero career is over. Izuku placed a hand on Ida's shoulder. I'm sorry, Tenya. but going to Hosu for revenge.
It's not revenge. Ida cut him off sharply, though his eyes said otherwise. It's merely where I feel I can learn the most right now. Warning. Subject displaying concerning behavioral indicators. Probability of unsanctioned revenge attempt. 76%. Just promise me you won't do anything rash, Izuku said, concern evident in his voice.
Ida adjusted his glasses, composure restored. Of course not. We're students, after all. As Ida walked away, Izuku made a mental note to keep track of the hero killer's movements during his internship. Something told him this wouldn't be the last he heard of the matter.
The Sir Night Eye Hero Agency was housed in an unassuming office building in downtown Mizudafu. As Izuku entered the lobby, carrying his hero costume case, he was greeted by a tall, slender man with spiky blonde hair and a perpetual smile.
Welcome, work-study student. I'm Togata Mirio, third year at UA and Sir's sidekick, he announced cheerfully. You must be Midoriya. Subject, Mirio Togata. UA High School third year, known as the Big Three. Quirk parameters unknown but likely significant based on position and demeanor.
Yes, nice to meet you, Izuku replied, shaking Mirio's hand. I'm honored to be here. Sir's excited to meet you. Well, in his own way, Mirio laughed. He doesn't show excitement like normal people, more like intense analytical interest. As they rode the elevator to the agency's floor, Mirio explained the office protocol. Sir values precision, punctuality, and humor. Yes, humor. He has a thing about making people laugh. Considers it a test of character. Izuku nodded, mentally preparing himself. Anything else I should know?
Just be yourself, Mirio advised. Sir has an uncanny ability to see through pretense. Oh, and don't be intimidated by his intensity. He stares a lot. The agency itself was meticulously organized, multiple screens displaying hero activity, case files arranged with perfect precision, and a staff of 6 working in focused silence.
At the center of it all, seated at a pristine desk, was a tall, thin man with neatly combed green hair and striking yellow eyes behind rectangular glasses. He didn't look up as they approached.
Sir, Mirio announced, I've brought Midoriya Izuku for his internship. Sir Night Eye finally looked up, his piercing gaze immediately locking onto Izuku with unsettling intensity.
Subject analysis. Sir Night Eye. Extreme attention to detail evident in posture, environment, and eye movement. Calculating optimal communication approach.
Midoriya, Night Eye said, his voice precise and measured. You're 3 minutes early. Good. Punctuality indicates respect for others' time. He stood, revealing his impressive height, and gestured to a chair across from his desk. Sit. We have much to discuss.
As Izuku sat, Night Eye continued to study him with unnerving focus. Your performance at the sports festival was interesting, particularly your use of calculated force application and environmental adaptation. Thank you, sir, Izuku replied. That wasn't a compliment, merely an observation, Night Eye stated flatly. Before we proceed further, I have a test. From his desk drawer, Night Eye retrieved a small rubber stamp and placed it before Izuku. Make me laugh within the next minute, and I'll consider your internship application. Fail, and you'll be directed to a different agency. Izuku blinked in surprise. Make you laugh. Your time is running, Midoriya.
Humor analysis. Subject demonstrates preference for slapstick and visual comedy based on office decorations and historical records. Recommend physical comedy approach utilizing predictive movement.
Thinking quickly, Izuku picked up the stamp. May I see your quirk in action first, Sir Night Eye? I've always been curious about foresight.
Night Eye's eyebrow raised slightly. An unusual request before attempting humor. Very well. He reached out, touching Izuku's shoulder. His yellow eyes glowed momentarily as he activated his quirk, seeing glimpses of Izuku's future. What he saw made his eyes widen fractionally, but he maintained his composure.
I've seen enough, he stated, withdrawing his hand. What did you see? Izuku asked curiously. That's not relevant to your current task. 30 seconds remaining. Izuku smiled. Actually, it is.
With lightning-fast movements enhanced by a careful 5% of one for all, Izuku flipped the stamp in his hand and pressed it against his own forehead. When he looked up, the stamp had left a perfect impression reading All Might on his skin.
Because I knew you'd see me doing this, Izuku explained, and I calculated that someone who collected limited edition All Might Golden Age figurines, like the ones barely visible on your shelf, would appreciate the reference to his debut comic cover pose. Izuku stood, mimicking All Might's iconic debut stance with the stamp mark prominently displayed on his forehead. For several seconds, Night Eye's expression remained unchanged. Then, to Mirio's visible shock, the corner of his mouth twitched upward. A small, restrained chuckle escaped him.
Using my own quirk against me, Night Eye remarked, the hint of a smile still present, and demonstrating observational skills that noticed details most would miss. Interesting approach, Midoriya.
He extended his hand. Your internship begins now. Mirio clapped in delight. Amazing! I've never seen Sir laugh so quickly with a new intern.
Over the next few days, Izuku immersed himself in Night Eye's methodical approach to hero work. Unlike combat-focused agencies, Night Eye specialized in investigation, prediction, and precision operations. Most villain encounters can be avoided entirely with proper intelligence gathering, Night Eye explained as they analyzed crime pattern data. A truly efficient hero prevents disasters before they occur.
Izuku absorbed everything, finding that Night Eye's analytical approach complemented Great Sage's capabilities perfectly. He learned to cross-reference data points, identify behavioral patterns, and predict criminal movements based on limited information.
During patrol exercises, Night Eye observed Izuku's movement and combat techniques with critical attention.
Your calculated fighting style is efficient, he noted after watching Izuku run through combat simulations. But you telegraph your analysis too openly. Opponents who study you will learn to use your processing time against you. Assessment accurate. Current analysis vocalization creates 0.4-second vulnerability window. Recommend developing subvocalization technique. I understand, Izuku replied. I'll work on internalizing my analysis process. On the third day, Night Eye called Izuku into his private office. The atmosphere was different, more serious, more personal. You know why I requested you specifically? Night Eye stated rather than asked.
Izuku nodded. Because of All Might. Because of One for All.
No point in denying it. Night Eye had likely confirmed it with his foresight quirk anyway.
He chose you, Night Eye continued, his yellow eyes intense behind his glasses. I need to understand why.
Conversation entering sensitive territory. Recommend balanced disclosure without revealing full extent of Great Sage.
I met him after stopping a villain, Izuku explained carefully. He saw something in me that reminded him of himself, not power, but the instinct to act when others wouldn't. Night Eye's expression remained unreadable. And your analytical abilities? Those are from One for All. No, Izuku confirmed. That's something I've always had. An ability to process information quickly, to see patterns others miss. A separate quirk? Izuku hesitated. Something like that.
Night Eye studied him silently for a moment. All Might is dying, Midoriya. My foresight showed me his death years ago. Bloody, violent, at the hands of a villain. I tried to convince him to retire, to find a successor earlier, but he refused.
The blunt statement hit Izuku like a physical blow, though Great Sage had already inferred as much. You're trying to change that future, Izuku realized.
Foresight has never been wrong, Night Eye replied grimly. But yes, I hope to mitigate the circumstances at least. Which is why I needed to evaluate you personally. He leaned forward. Your potential exceeds my expectations. The combination of One for All with your analytical capabilities creates a hero archetype we haven't seen before. Neither All Might's overwhelming power nor my calculating precision, but a balanced synthesis of both.
Izuku absorbed this assessment, feeling the weight of Night Eye's expectations.
There's something else you should know, Night Eye continued. When I used foresight on you, I saw fragments of your future as well. You standing victorious in situations where even All Might have failed. But also, he paused, seeming uncharacteristically uncertain. Also what? Izuku prompted. Pain. Sacrifice. A moment where your calculated nature and your emotional heart come into direct conflict. I couldn't see the outcome.
Future prediction aligns with pattern recognition of current trajectory. Multiple convergent threats indicate high probability conflict scenario within 1 to 3 years.
I'll be ready, Izuku said with quiet determination. Whatever comes. Night Eye adjusted his glasses. We'll see. For now, there's practical work to be done. We've been tracking the hero Killer Stain's movements, and intelligence suggests he'll strike again in Hosu City within the next 48 hours. Izuku stiffened. Hosu? That's where Ida is interning. Your classmate with the engine quirk? Yes, I'm aware his brother was Stain's victim. Another reason we're prioritizing this case.
As Night Eye outlined their surveillance plan for Hosu, Izuku's mind raced. The coincidence was too perfect. Ida in Hosu just as Stain was predicted to strike again.
Calculating probability of Ida Tenya pursuing independent action against Hero Killer. 87% and rising. Recommend immediate intervention. Sir Night Eye, Izuku interrupted. I believe my classmate may be in danger, not just from being in Hosu, but from his own actions. He may be planning to confront Stain himself.
Nightai's eyes narrowed. That would be extremely foolish. Stain has defeated 17 pro heroes, paralyzing or killing most of them.
I know. That's why we need to act quickly.
For the first time, Night Eye smiled, a small, approving expression. Now you're thinking like a true hero, Midoriya. Prevention before reaction. We leave for Hosu in an hour.
As they prepared for the mission, Izuku sent a message to Ida. Be careful in Hosu. Night Eye has intel that Stain will strike again soon. Don't act alone. He received no response. And that wraps up part 1 of What If Deku Had the Great Sage. We've only scratched the surface of Izuku's transformation, but trust me, this is just the beginning.
Did you feel that hype? That emotion? That energy? If you did, then drop a like, comment below your favorite scene or theory, and help us hit that 100 like goal to unlock the next episode.
Make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you never miss another upload, because the ChronoCrew Legends are always ahead of the timeline. Thanks again for your support. Until next time, Chronos out.